championship has been captured by the Indiana Pacers.
David Rosenquist, he wins the 110th running of the Indianapolis 500-mile race.
This is the Fan Morning Show with Kevin Bowen and James Boyd.
Well, I don't think there's a professional sports league out there that has more fireworks at odd hours of the day than the National Basketball Association. You got more of it last night. Giannis Antetokounmpo traded to the Miami Heat. And that will define a whole lot of what today is about for the league. And, of course, the rest of the offseason as that massive domino has fallen. Good Tuesday morning to you. Looks to be a really, really nice day here in the Circle City. It is also NBA Draft Day, round one of the draft coming up tonight. You can hear that on these airwaves. So this domino that we talked about a whole lot has finally fallen. And we'll get to that here and plenty, frankly, to get to. You know, it's kind of funny. I was thinking, James Boyd, good morning.
Good morning.
Mark Dykton, good morning. Part of the What If Summer Series was, hey, we'll be in kind of a slowish news cycle. Boy, we got a lot to get to, boys, over the next 3 hours, don't we? And we still have a What If to get to here on this Tuesday.
Yeah, I figured we would probably have plenty of time to talk about our next What If scenario. But then at the Fever game last night, Caitlin Clark happened. They won, by the way. She played pretty well, but there's always a little extra when you're covering the Fever game. And then as I'm sitting there writing that stuff up, Giannis gets moved. Finally. Are you glad to finally be done with the it could happen, it might not happen, he might stay, he might go, she loves me not?
Yes, because I think now it gets other stuff started. That this was kind of the big one that needed to go. So we'll hit, obviously, on the Giannis trade, as James said. Box score-wise, nice defensive effort from the Fever last night after an ugly first quarter for them. They pull away, and I would say rather convincing fashion. I really don't think the final score is too indicative of how much they were in control. But that was one of the, honestly, that was one of the harder fourth quarter watches I've had in a while.
Oh, my gosh.
I'm like, is this game ever going to end? And then we'll get to the James Boyd press conference, or I should say the Caitlin Clark press conference. But James firing a question at Caitlin, and to say that she was fired up would be an understatement from that audio in regards to her getting a fifth technical now through, 16 games, 17 games?
17 games.
Through the season here. So that to get to, I guess, I don't know, the Dusty May to the Mavericks news seems like just a sprinkle on top of the ice cream.
That did happen.
At this point, that happened. Granted, it happened about 10:30 yesterday. And yesterday, once again, was a day for the World Cup stars as your individual Lionel Messi, Kylian Mbappe, and that dude for Norway, Mark, he is unreal.
Erling Haaland, yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, I need to start remembering how to say his name because he is very, very good. All right, Giannis trade. Details on this. He goes to Miami Heat along with Bobby Portis, and in exchange, pretty much everybody that put on a Heat uniform last year. Halfway joking on that. No Bam Adebayo, I guess, is probably where we should start there. Tyler Hero, Jaime Jaquez, Khalil Ware. Khalil Ware is better than Miles Turner, is he not? I'd rather have Khalil Ware than Miles Turner.
I definitely would, especially at the price point.
Your dude from Illinois, I kind of forgot about. Sarunas.
Don't ask me how to pronounce his name.
Yakachunas. I hope some fans will recall who I'm trying to talk about there. He was actually a mid-round pick last year. I think it was hurt a good amount through his rookie season. And a trio of first-round picks. So by the reporting we're seeing here, it sounds like they turned down the Boston Celtics, which had a trade package including Jaylen Brown and 2 first-round picks. On the surface, I may be a little surprised by that. Obviously, they got a lot more in quantity from the Miami Heat with this. So I'll start there. How good are the Heat with Giannis?
I think defensively they're going to be really, really tough because you have Giannis, who is an all-NBA caliber defender. You also have Andrew Wiggins down there, if I'm not mistaken. He's a pretty good wing defender. And then obviously Bam Adebayo, who is one of the better defensive centers in the league. So that right there is a nice front line. And then you also have Davion Mitchell, who's a good perimeter defender. So I don't know how much, scoring punch they might have, given the fact that Bam did score 83 points in the game by himself, and Giannis has had 60-point games and things like that. But Defensively, I do like that. I think that Miami's clearly a better team, but I also wonder, KB, okay, how much does that move the needle for you to really be a championship contender?
Yeah,
and that's where I'm a little like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't see them on that level. No.
Like he's with a better team now, I think. But again, that's relative to being on an awful team.
I can't put them on tier 1 again. We'll see how the Jaylen Brown thing, I guess, has to play out. Like, is Jaylen Brown on the trade market, or is he just going back to Boston?
Hey, brother, come on back to Boston. Hey, I was just looking at her. I didn't choose her over you.
Yeah. Good luck explaining that to him, Brad Stevens. But, because to me, tier 1 is still some form of whatever. Knicks, Celtics, I think a healthy Pacers team. We'll see about Cleveland. I don't put Miami there yet. I mean, you point out some defensive things. I can hear you. I don't see any shooting at all.
And that's
on this
where
team.
I wonder again, how good are you?
Which is the anti-build in Milwaukee. The thought of Milwaukee was always shooting.
Yeah.
Around Giannis. Norman Powell, like, is he back? Is he not? I think he's got a $30 million cap hold for next season. How do they fit that into their financial puzzle right now? And, you pointed this out a couple different times yesterday. Is Giannis still superhuman health-wise? I mean, the back of the basketball card would say no. So that would be a question that I would have there. So I honestly think from a Pacers standpoint, this is probably better than him going to Boston. Not that the Boston thing would have been a slam dunk, but I think the Boston thing maybe had a higher ceiling. I don't see this situation in Miami having as high of a ceiling as the Boston situation could have been.
I would agree with you there. Just because of star power, if he had gone to Boston, him and Jason Tatum, you could argue that would be a better tandem than the two J's, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. So it sounded like, at least in my eyes, that the Bucks would have been the better. I'm sorry, not the Bucks. The Celtics would have been a better fit as well, just because of the talent they have around their star players. But Giannis gets his wish. He gets moved. Miami it is. Not bad to live in Florida this time of the year, or any time of the year, really. But winning-wise, I'm just not sure that they're going to get over the hump. I guess if there's some hope there, Kevin, it's that you have had a lot of parity in the league over the last 8 years with 8 different champions. So it isn't like you can't perhaps make one more move to try to get back to that tier 1 level, but I'm squinting my eyes a little bit, and I'm not seeing it. He's in a better situation for sure, but again, talking about championships, which is what Giannis should be playing for and is playing for at this point in his career, I don't know if that will end with raising the trophy.
Tony East going to join us at 9. We'll talk NBA draft with him. He has pointed out, what tonight, tomorrow night could look like for the Pacers. Again, no picks, of course, but do they try to wiggle their way into any sort of pick situation? And then now with this Giannis domino falling, does this kind of get the league going a little bit? We saw yesterday the Julius Randle trade. Sounds like that was more to open up cap space for the T-Wolves in re-signing their Illinois guard, Ayu Dosunmu, who had a really good playoff run, I guess, with the T-Wolves this past year here. So, I am curious just get things going a little bit here league-wide. So, again, tonight, NBA draft, 8 o'clock, 5 minutes per pick here, round 1, and then round 2 coming up tomorrow.
Real quick, this from Jim Bob Martin. How's Miles feeling now? Boy.
Yeah, again, I think Cleo Ware is better than Miles.
Yeah, but just situation-wise, he leaves last year. You think you're going to greener pastures with Giannis. Giannis bounces after one of the worst seasons they've had in recent memories in Milwaukee, and now I think he's the highest paid player on their team. You're the guy.
It's the Fresh Prince gif where Will Smith's looking around in an empty room.
It's so
there
true.
You go, Mark.
So true. Yeah. Is Giannis's brother still on the Bucks? That's why I think if the Celtics trade happened, maybe Miles still has a role. But like, if I'm the Bucks, I'm looking at Cleo Ware and say, "Come on down, buddy." Like, Cleo Ware is a promising young center. For those that haven't watched a lot of Heat, I would say he's a much younger / better Miles Turner. That's kind of how I would. Maybe I'm giving Ware a little too much present credit, but he certainly has the arrow pointing much more up on his career than Miles does. So, again, that news in the wee hours of, I guess, Tuesday morning. James, again, you were over at Gamebridge Fieldhouse last night. Game-wise, Fever win, horrific first quarter. They score 6 points. Thank you to Kelsey Mitchell for hitting the 3 at the buzzer to even get it to 6. Then they played very good basketball really the rest of the way. Caitlin Clark, Kelsey Mitchell. Clark was great in the second quarter. A couple deep threes there to kind of get them back into it. I thought Mo Billings, had one of her better nights of the season with a double-double. But the night is going to be looked at for the fourth quarter. I believe the sequence ended with 5 technicals, and then Maisha Hines-Allen got a 6th technical on the next trip down the floor there. So I guess for those that were not watching, because James, that fourth quarter was, I swear, the longest quarter in WNBA history.
Do you want to know how long it was?
Sure, yeah.
44 minutes of real lifetime. Can you believe that?
I think I watched it in 3 different parts of the house. Like, that's how long it was. It was like I started on the couch.
Putting the kids to bed, doing some laundry, folding some laundry.
I was debating
dinner.
what was taking longer, the fourth quarter of that or the 2-hour delay between France and their game in the World Cup.
Yeah.
Well, Mark, at least they had a more legitimate reason, I would argue.
A little Philadelphia action yesterday. But I guess for those that missed it, James, DeWanna Bonner and Caitlin Clark is where it started. Obviously, DeWanna Bonner on the Fever last year. For those that don't fully recall that story, I will say that she quit on the team. She might use another word, but nonetheless, take it from there and fill in all the details.
So with about 8 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, it looked like DeWanna Bonner tried to post up Caitlin Clark. Caitlin took exception and kind of just held her ground. They get into it. Refs call a foul on Caitlin, but there was a little bit of extra physicality afterwards. So both of those two kind of get into it, and they had to be separated after exchanging a few words. Nothing happened after that, or at least with those two initially. No technical fouls, no extracurriculars, no nothing. But as the referees were kind of trying to sort that out, Caitlin began clapping in the direction of the Phoenix Mercury players. And you can see it on the video. I know Caitlin was saying, I got a text for clapping. Yes, Caitlin, you got a text for clapping because you were indeed instigating. I know she called out the official.
I think Stephanie White used the word taunting is what the official told her.
If you saw the actual play and what she did, it is absolutely, in my opinion, a technical foul. You shouldn't be doing that when they're trying to kind of diffuse the situation. You throw gasoline on a little bit. So that happened. She gets technical foul. So as she is arguing with the officials of like, man, I shouldn't have got a technical foul. What are you doing? This is kind of crazy. Then you see Maisha Hines-Allen and Alyssa Thomas get into it. They come face to face. They both get offsetting double technicals. And then as the officials trying to sort that out, you have Sophie Cunningham and DeWanna Bonner pointing at each other in each other's faces. They get offsetting technical fouls. So all told, in that one sequence, you have 5 technicals for 5 different players. And then as soon as the play kind of resumed, you have Maisha Hines-Allen fouling Alyssa Thomas, the Phoenix Mercury star. She gives her extra shove. And then because of the extra shove, Maisha Hines-Allen gets her second technical foul, and she gets ejected. So this all happened in about 8 seconds of game time. But like I just told you all, in about 40 minutes of real lifetime that I will never get back. My eyeballs were bleeding watching how bad that sequence was. And really the fourth quarter because of all the fouling, which I understand why the refs called it so tight because it got so physical and kind of antsy that you don't want it to escalate. But yeah, some of the stuff from Caitlin, man, she has to have more maturity as she moves forward. That's my opinion. Now, she can feel free to disagree with it. But, yeah, there's no way. I know we were talking about it after the game. She thinks the league should review her technical foul. She has 5 now. For those listening, 8 gets you the 1-game suspension. But I don't think that's going to get rescinded, honestly.
We don't usually play audio in the opening segment. I thought her fired up nature and signaling out the official, which you don't typically see, deserved it. So, Mark, let's cue this up. This is Caitlin Clark postgame last night.
Pick up the tech tonight, 5th of the season.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I got a technical for clapping. So, like, if we should all just go on the calendar now and pick a game that I'm going to be suspended for if I'm going to get technicals for clapping. I asked Gerda. Gerda said that I got a technical for clapping. So, if any technical should be taken away, it should be that one. If it's truly for clapping, that's what they said they gave it to me for was for clapping. So it's just ridiculous. I don't understand it at all.
So even within that, though, how aware do you have to be of the 8 technical fouls?
I mean, I'm going to play with emotion. I'm going to play with passion. And if they're going to give me a technical foul for clapping, then so be it. That's their choice. And the league can come back and review that play, and I'd love to hear what they say of the reasoning of why I got the technical foul in that situation and why other players on their team didn't get a technical foul in that situation. If anything, split it. Okay, fine. Everybody gets a technical foul. That wasn't how they were handed out. So I'd love to know. But obviously, that's what I went to Gerda and said. I said, why'd you give me a technical foul? She said, because I was clapping and instigating. I said, okay, then you just don't like competitive basketball. And that's just facts. That's just reality. So disappointing from them.
Yeah, I've said it before. I think her body language was horrible. And I get that like whining to the officials is something we see a tad universal, probably across both the NBA and the W. But I think too often I hear her use that excuse of like, oh, it's just my passion, it's my passion, it's my passion. But it's like, okay, that can't be the excuse for all of this. Or
Right.
the 4 other technicals through 17. Was last night's technical maybe a tad on the quick whistle side? Sure. If you want to rank the 5 technicals, it probably ranks whatever, 5th. So I could hear her a little bit on that, but I'm a little tired of the it's my passion, it's my passion, it's my fire. Sorry, like that's what it's about. It's on the precipice, really, of costing yourself a game for a team right now that is battling for a playoff spot. That
Right.
can't happen.
I agree, and I think that sounds good. The whole
And she was still chirping, by the way, afterwards. I thought for a brief second there, I'm like, is she about to get a second?
and that's the other thing I was going to hit on, Kevin. I think that she does get a pretty long leash as it is, because there was another. I think she got a travel call actually, which I would probably agree with her. It was a little egregious, but they're up by 14 or 15 points. They call travel on her. She jumps in the air, throws her hands up, and she's showing up the officials, in my opinion. And in that moment, I'm thinking to myself, if they go by the letter of the law and whatever is in the rule book, they could tee you up again right now and get you out of this game. And then you would have 6. So I don't know what I expected, but when I asked her the question afterwards of, okay, I understand all the emotion, all the passion, but you are close to hurting your team by not being available. And she responds and says, well, just pencil it in. I'm going to be done. And I get it, she was being sarcastic, but that sounds good in the moment until you actually miss a game and you hurt your team. And like you said, you're not in a position where you have this big lead as far as games won or in the standings where you are very safe from missing the playoffs. You're right on that line of getting in or getting out.
And I think it's a little bit of a shame because her second quarter flurry last night was, put that on the greatness highlight reel of her. I mean, that's how good she was in the second quarter, getting them back into it.
Yeah,
I
would agree.
And it's kind of a shame that overshadows it. So quite the night inside of Gainbridge Fieldhouse, quite the night in the NBA with Giannis off to the Miami Heat. Mark, we got a million things to get to here on this Tuesday morning. We are way over. Let's hit a morning checkdown after the break. The gold standard for hair restoration, it's We Grow Hair Indy, Northwest Side, building number 2 at the Pyramids. They can help you out today online. It's WeGrowHairIndy.com. Before and after pictures and videos you'll see up on their site. And I think part of what I encourage you to do is just get answers. I my hand is raised too many times. I'm probably a little hesitant in kind of reaching out and asking for information on a variety of things. But the great thing about We Grow Hair Indy, they have free evaluations. They have virtual evaluations, and they have private evaluations. So if any of that is something that kind of makes sense to you, you deserve it to get answers to the questions you have. So again, contact them today. Northwest Side, building number 2 at the Pyramids. It's WeGrowHairIndy.com. A free evaluation, the private evaluation, the virtual evaluation, all of that is available to you. Gold standard for hair restoration. They call Indy home. We Grow Hair Indy.
The Morning Checkdown on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Boy, we got a lot to get to, James. Let's start with what happened in the wee hours of this morning, and that would be Giannis Antetokounmpo on the move to the Miami Heat. It sounded like Celtics Heat, the two teams most interested in Giannis. The trade package is quite a lot, so bear with me here. Giannis and Bobby Portis to the Heat. In return, Tyler Hero, who I believe is a Wisconsin guy, Tyler Hero, Khalil Ware, Jaime Jaquez, former Illinois guard Kasparis Sarunas Jakavicic. Yeah, I always butcher his name. A trio of first-round picks and a second-rounder. In your eyes, this changes the Eastern Conference in what way, if any?
It probably gives a little more juice to the puncher's chance contenders because Giannis and Bam, you can't just dismiss that. I do think they would have a puncher's chance to try to get to an NBA Finals, but I also think that it's, pretty scary for Giannis to run in Miami because he's afraid of Tyrese Halliburton coming back. I mean, come on now. Is that what this is all about? Tyrese gets healthy and all of a sudden Giannis has to go to Miami?
He's afraid of the Central Division rivalry.
I know, exactly. He's afraid of John Halliburton. He's leaving.
Are there rivalries within divisions in the NBA?
Who even keeps up with the divisions in the NBA?
I don't think I can.
I only know the division that the Pacers are in because I work in the league, but the average fan probably couldn't tell you any divisions in the NBA. But on a more serious note, I do think this is a better team and situation for Giannis, but I don't think that he joined or created a contending team on paper.
Reminder, NBA draft tonight, and so this domino having fallen, I think now allows maybe for the rest of the league to kind of look at it and say, all right, where does the rest of the offseason fit in here? 8 o'clock, our airwaves coming up tonight, round 1, round 2 tomorrow, also at 8 o'clock. All right, inside of Gamebridge Fieldhouse last night. Let's focus on the game for just a second here, James. 86-77, Fever win. The 77 number, great for the Fever, especially after the first quarter. One of their best defensive performances, frankly, of the season there. I thought Caitlin Clark in the second quarter was outstanding. For those that did not watch, the Fever scored 6 in the opening quarter, and then Clark went off there in the second. And really, for the most part, they were in full control the rest of the game. I don't think the 9-point margin is really indicative to how much the Fever were in control.
No, not at all. That was somebody probably crying over losing a bet at the end of that game. We had a couple late baskets by the Mercury, but overall, the basketball performance was fine. It was the extracurriculars that drew all the headlines and what we'll spend most of our morning talking about when it comes to the Fever.
6 technicals in total there in the fourth quarter. It was quite the sore eye watch in the fourth quarter. Caitlin Clark got whistled for the first of all of those. That is her 5th technical now. And again, league rules say if you get to 8, you are suspended for a game. And we are at game, 17 of 44?
Yep.
So my math would say we're not on a great trend.
Not at all. And I did get a chance to ask Caitlin after the game, hey, getting close to those technical foul limits. And she basically dismissed the idea of changing her behavior and blamed the officials, called one of the officials out by name, and said that all she did was get a tech for clapping. But for what I saw there in the arena, what we see on the replay, it wasn't just clapping. It was her walking up to a few Phoenix players and clapping after officials had tried to defuse the situation. Like you pointed out earlier, is it one of the more crazy or egregious texts she's been given? Probably, not. But at the same time, she has to show more composure, I think, moving forward.
Again, Fever back in action against the Mercury tomorrow night. So I'm curious to see some fireworks coming up tomorrow. Just remind everybody, DeWanna Bonner was on the Fever last year. Pseudo quit on the team. She's now with Phoenix. Sophie Cunningham, former Phoenix Mercury player. So they were also involved in all of the technical.
Sophie just pointing at her was the most. Did you see that?
Yeah, wagging that finger at her.
Yeah.
That was Hines-Allen gets booted from the game. She was standing up for Caitlin and standing up for her other teammates, and she gets tossed. So, yeah, that was quite the fourth quarter, to say the least, last night.
I figure Mahisha Hines-Allen might get those texts covered by Caitlin Clark. New shoe coming out. She's got the money to help out her teammate. But when Sophie, when she was pointing at DeWanna Bonner, that reminded me, your kids probably have done it or will do it, the whole I'm not touching you, so don't get upset with me. And you just point at him or you're like very close to him. That's what that reminded me of. Like, oh, I'm not touching you, but like you're also clearly trying to annoy them.
Yes, that is a good way to put it. Mark, yesterday, once again, a day for the Stars on the pitch.
Paid off nicely for me. Yeah, Messi pair of goals, Mbappe pair of goals, Haaland a pair of goals. Another solid performance. Now Cristiano Ronaldo gets on the pitch later today. Can he get his first World Cup goal of 2026? We shall see.
Boy, that first Messi goal, can I give a shout out to the teammate that allowed that ball to go through his legs so then Messi could kick it in stride in the goal? That was beautiful. Like, looked over his shoulder, realized Messi was behind him. Gosh, that was artwork.
Sportsmanship.
Sportsmanship and artwork. I mean, great teammate. Yeah, I mean, all of it right there. So, yes, we have had some just great individual star performances, but not yet from Cristiano Ronaldo, but he'll be on the pitch, as Mark said, later today. And he did not really do a whole lot in Portugal's first match. Major League Baseball. Can I share you a text message that I sent last night?
Please.
The Reds had a perfect game going against them
Oh,
through 5
boy.
innings.
Mhm.
They were playing the Brewers. I texted Joel Erickson at 8:23 p.m. and all text, "How is your pitcher doing tonight?" Anything. I'm desperate, boys. Anything to try to break it up. The Reds got to hit the next inning. Guess what? Joel was there.
Oh, look at that.
Joel was at Great American Ballpark.
You
He
probably
goes,
ruined his night.
I was gonna say, did he like text you back a middle finger?
Here you go. Of course, it's just so Joel. He goes, "Ha, we're here." He's not going the distance. It's his first game off the injured list. Yeah, I'm like, okay, Joel. I don't need I don't need the I don't need the background on
He's
that.
so practical.
Of course, baseball god said, "Kevin, for that text, your team's going to lose in extra innings." Cubs postponed. White Sox walk off. Their great season continues there over the Guardians. Shout out to Oklahoma Boomer Sooner, national champ. That is 7 straight SEC national titles in baseball. How about Oklahoma was the 11th place team in the SEC this season? Not even a lock to make the NCAA tournament. They get on that run and win that best-of-3 series. What did you make yesterday of Dusty May to the Dallas Mavericks? That news broke right after we signed off.
I read a couple of different stories, and it sounds like he just didn't really want to deal with the NIL landscape and trying to court players and dealing with their agents and stuff like that. This is a guy who made it to the mountaintop of men's college basketball, so you accomplished your dream at that level. And from what I understand and everything that I read, he always left the door open to go to the NBA. And I would assume it's for more money, probably a little more job security, and the opportunity to coach Cooper Flagg is going to be a cherry on top too.
Yeah, I always felt, unlike Brad Stevens, which I think kind of came really out of nowhere, I always felt with Dusty May was more of a win, not if, when it came to the NBA. I'm bummed for college basketball. I know I shared this last year or 2 years ago, whenever Dan Hurley flirted with the Lakers. I think these coaches are more important for college landscape than they are for the pro landscape here. When we think of the Mavericks, we're still going to think of Cooper Flagg first. Billy Donovan went to the league and just nobody even really remembers almost Billy Donovan and what he did from a college standpoint. But more than anything, James, I hate how you described that first part of like Dusty May, by all accounts, is leaving because the state of college basketball. This is a man that grew up in college basketball, literally from a manager all the way. And it's the chaos and instability that we all know needs controlling, that's contributing to a great young coach who rose again through the ranks, leaving a very stable, successful situation. It just bothers me. Great news for Indiana and Purdue, but bothers me.
Yeah, but again, this is a dude who did everything he wanted to and probably didn't think that when he first started out coaching college basketball, it would turn into this. And also got a kick out of this. Kevin, made me think of you because you've talked about this multiple times. How different does his career look if Florida Atlantic doesn't beat Memphis in that round 1 game years ago, where I think it was Nick Boyd had the game-winning layup in the last couple seconds? They go on that Final Four run.
Huge jump ball that went FAU's way.
Yeah, I mean, what the butterfly effect of that moment to where he is now, boy, that is some divine intervention if I ever saw it.
That sounds like a what if.
Oh.
Adding it to the list.
Look at that from James Boyd there. I added one to the list, Mark, last night, by the way. I need to make sure I need to share with you. We will sprinkle in a what if here coming up on the other side. Again, we did the brawl last week. We did Gordon Hayward's shot. We'll sprinkle in a couple of different ones here coming up. And we got a lot, obviously, to get to on this Tuesday morning. It's kind of the rare June day where there's plenty to get to. Giannis to the Heat. NBA draft night is here. I think a Colts training camp schedule could be announced here on the horizon as well. We had a couple dates thrown out yesterday. Plenty to get to on this Tuesday morning. Tony East at 9 o'clock to preview if anything off of this Giannis trade could impact the Pacers, and obviously a look into the draft if the Pacers could wiggle their way into purchasing a pick or not. Good looking Tuesday morning outside. Thanks for spending it with us. Fan Morning Show.
We are tracking a bright and beautiful day across central Indiana. Mostly sunny skies with a high near 78 degrees. Tonight, mostly clear with lows in the upper 50s. I'm Fox 59 meteorologist Amber Hardwick for The Fan.
This is the Fan Morning Show with Kevin Bowen and James Boyd.
I'll get into our third edition of the What If Summer Series. We'll start that here in a few minutes. Tons of topics to get to since we signed off yesterday at 10 o'clock. Have you heard from the IU faithful saying this is the best thing to get Dusty May back to Bloomington?
I haven't heard that yet, but I think that he might be okay with coaching Cooper Flagg and getting a raise to go to the NBA.
Go to the NBA, 3 years, flame out. Darren DeVries, his time has come to an end in Bloomington.
Is there any solace with knowing that he was going to leave either way?
After Brad Stevens says no, then Dusty May says yes.
Where's the Kyle Nidenrip tweet when you need it?
Well, yeah, you would have. Yeah, I mean, if you're an Indiana fan, right, you would have taken the national title for 2 years of Dusty May, would you not?
Absolutely. I mean, any team would.
You would cut off a limb, frankly, for that. So, yeah, that big news item yesterday to the Dallas Mavericks. Again, tonight is the NBA draft, and for those that missed it and are just waking up, I assume a lot of you maybe have not seen the full Giannis Antetokounmpo trade. Again, off to the Miami Heat from the Milwaukee Bucks. Him and Bobby Portis for a trade package of Tyler Hero, Khalil Ware, Jaime Jaquez, the former Illinois guard, Kasparis. Yeah, I always think he's Sarunas Jasikevicic, former Pacers legend. 3 first-round picks. You mentioned earlier the Heat now have a lot of length, and I would say some interchanging.
Yeah.
With Andrew Wiggins at the 3, I guess Giannis at the 4, Bam at the 5, if you want to call it that. I worry a lot about their shooting and their depth, but still, it's an intriguing 3-4-5. I'm not sold on them being in the top tier of the East, but on paper, it is it's certainly a group that stands out at those 3 spots. Honestly, probably more than a lot of teams in the East. More teams in the East are a little bit guard wing centric.
Yeah.
They're the team that I think stands out a little bit more in just kind of that front court, which not something you probably say really about many teams in the league.
No, but what makes Giannis unique is that he does have some of that ball handling capability. I know he played the point a little bit with Milwaukee. I don't know if I loved seeing him at that position, but it is possible just because of the size and playmaking. And the bigger question for Miami, besides trying to get more talent around their new core, it's will Giannis be healthy? Because it's not a knock on him because he's already a first ballot Hall of Fame player, a top 75 player of all time. But the last few years, when it comes to the do or die part of the season, he hasn't been available for his team. Last year, I think it was a career low in games played. And a lot of it has been like the calf, lower leg, Kevin, which also gives me a little pause to say, okay, can you push this? Can you really be aggressive? Or every year when you feel something in that calf, a la Tyrese Halliburton, do you have to sit down because of the fear of it getting worse and, unfortunately, for a few players, not just Tyrese, turning into a Achilles tear or something like that. So we'll see how it all shakes out. But Giannis finally, I don't know if I said say gets his wish, but he gets moved. That whole situation was weird because for a year and a half, we all knew he was leaving. But then every other day it was like, well, he might stay. He loves Milwaukee. He doesn't want to go. Brother, get real.
Yeah, I don't. It's kind of funny you say like he gets his wish. Like what?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I don't know if it's his wish. I look
at Miami right now and be like, that's a 6 seed.
Yeah, but he wanted out, right? Is that fair to say?
Right, but it's like, in a lot of these instances, and, I honestly think Giannis, let's be honest, how many small market teams have a star like Giannis for a decade?
Yeah.
Not many.
That's true.
So it was, frankly, a hell of a run.
Heck, their last one left. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
With the Bucks, yeah. So the fact that, he's moving, and he's not moving to, like, go join up with, Bam is, he's not.
He scored 83 points.
Stop it. He's not.
Respect where respect is due.
like if you're on the Celtics, I think at a Jason Tatum peak, he can be a top 5-ish player in the league. Like, that's what Jason Tatum has shown. And obviously,
I don't see Tatum's name on the 80-point game list, but continue. I agree with you.
Whereas, Bam, obviously we don't look at it. So that part's interesting. And honestly, I know we talked about it earlier, but when I saw Khalil Ware's name mentioned in the trade, I just thought to myself, oh boy, I'd rather have Khalil Ware than Miles Turner 10 days out of 10.
What do you mean? This is the Miles Turner team now in Milwaukee. Highest paid player. He's a star. Give Miles the ball and get out the way. It's time to go to work.
There's part of me that's like, is Miles about to turn into that big contract that just gets moved a lot?
There is a possibility for that for sure. For sure. Which, in a way, I don't necessarily knock Miles for getting all the money he could and cashing in one more time. But we can't sit here and act like Tyrese didn't help him have career years here in Indianapolis. And the idea when he left was for Giannis to help him have career years in Milwaukee. But the NBA moves fast. And now he's standing there like Mark said, Will Smith style, nothing in the living room anymore. Empty.
If you missed the Caitlin Clark, I would say pretty passionate audio following the game last night. We'll play that coming up for you here in a little bit. She was whistled for her 5th technical now in 17 games. 8 technicals. You get suspended for a game. It was quite the whistle-heavy fourth quarter last night as the Fever were in control after a really poor first quarter. I thought Caitlin Clark honestly played very well last night. Kelsey Mitchell and Mo Billings had a double-double. So we'll get to that here coming up in a little bit. Mark Dighton, it's our 3rd edition of our What If Summer Series. We've got a lot to get to on this Tuesday morning. We are fully aware of that, but should we sprinkle in a little what if action?
Here goes Artest up into the crowd. He's absolutely out of his mind.
But I am going to retire. This is not an easy decision.
It's Hayward pulling it down. At midcourt, launches the shot. Oh, it almost went in.
After the occurrence yesterday with Josh backing out.
Halliburton falls down. He looks hurt.
The Indiana Fever select Caitlin Clark.
What if I told you?
As expected, the Indianapolis Colts have a new head coach. Josh McDaniels has been officially named the Colts' new head coach.
Is something going on with Josh McDaniels? He has, or is about to tell the Colts that he's pulling out from head coaching agreement they had.
After the occurrence yesterday with Josh backing out.
For Chris Ballard and Mr. Irsay, quite honestly, this is a mess.
This is so Bush League. This is so garbage.
You do that if the team to which you are going, there is uncertainty about the franchise quarterback.
The rivalry is back on.
Josh McDaniels didn't back out.
For about 8 hours back in 2018, Josh McDaniels was indeed the coach of the Colts. This was in, I think it was about 48 hours after the Patriots had lost the Super Bowl. And the thought was he was about to board a plane for the press conference and officially put pen to paper, but agreed to terms was the phrase used. The Colts had announced it. And then you had the backing out at the altar, if you will, from Josh McDaniels. James, you weren't on the beat at the time, but what do you recall? Zach Kiefer going to join us, talk a little bit more about this in 15, but what do you recall about that infamous day?
I just remember it being so bizarre because you rarely see this happen. This is a big life decision. When you say and you give a team your word that you're going to join their franchise, lead their franchise, typically you don't go back on that. And the way I look at it as someone who wasn't in the state, Kevin, from a broader perspective, I also remember that was around the time that Andrew Luck was going through some of the shoulder stuff too. So I was thinking like, boy, the Colts are being hit with the double whammy here because now you have questions for your head coaching job, but also your quarterback position. So if you're going to pick 2 spots to be unsolidified, if that's even a word, or be unstable, those 2 are the last 2 you want on the list.
Yeah, and then I guess ironically, weirdly, however you want to call it, Andrew Luck came back and played in 2018 and played great.
Right.
And by all accounts, he has said it was one of, if not his favorite seasons of football ever. And then he retires the following August, which, again, that's a whole different saga and what if story. My memories kind of that time period, well, first off is tragedy. Again, I mentioned Super Bowl Sunday, Patriots, Eagles. That weekend was when Colts linebacker Edwin Jackson, a beloved player in that locker room, died in the wee hours on, I think it was on 465, maybe on I-70.
70.
Got hit by, I believe, a supposed drunk driver. And I mean, Chris Ballard was, heavily involved in, I think, the informing of families or getting the call and then informing of families of that tragedy. So he was going through all of that. And then, I guess unbeknownst to him, and who knows when Josh McDaniels had this change of heart, was this truly like after the Super Bowl loss and that you all go back to Foxborough and you have your exit meetings and he sits down with Belichick and Brady and he says, you know what, we need to have one more run at it. And then what happens with New England? They then go win the Super Bowl that next year. So that is something I think about. And honestly, another one from the what if aspect in regards to kind of the branches off this, because every time we do one of these what ifs, I feel like there's all these little branches off these stories.
Right.
With the Brad Stevens one on Thursday, Mark, I remember we were talking about, Brad Stevens stayed for 3 more seasons after that runner-up to Duke. If that shot goes in, does the NBA flirtation become a little bit bigger for him?
Is he Dusty May?
Yeah, I guess. Or was it just the Celtics? Of like, no, that's a rare job.
Right, okay.
Yeah, if
not
the Kings
one of
came
30.
a calling, I don't think he would have taken that job.
Seriously. But with this Colts job and that 2018 head coaching cycle, a couple things. One, they interviewed Mike Vrabel in the first wave, along with Josh McDaniels. What if Josh McDaniels had told them no from the start? What if Mike Vrabel was this team's head coach in 2018? Pivot to the second wave of the head coaching search. Josh McDaniels tells them no. They interview 3 candidates the second time around. None of those candidates they interviewed the first time around. Those 3 candidates, Frank Reich, of course, who they hired, Leslie Frazier, who had ties to the franchise from back in the Dungy Caldwell days, and the third one was Dan Campbell. Just culturally, can you imagine a Mike Vrabel or a Dan Campbell as the head coach of this football team over the last 7 or 8 years? That's a thought, that I have in regards to this. There was a little bit of like how Andrew Luck would have reacted to playing for Josh McDaniels. I he loved playing for Frank Reich by all accounts. So I don't know if that would have influenced or, potentially changed his retirement. Part of me thinks luck is luck, and there's no way that would have happened. And then lastly, James, I'd say this. Josh McDaniels was thought to be a bit of a risk-reward hire. He had flamed out in Denver, of course, as a very young head coach. There were a lot of people that thought to himself, no, he's still a coordinator, Look how the Raiders situation went for him a couple years ago. He gets fired, hell, Jeff Saturday beat him a couple years ago. He got fired midway through that year 2 there.
Hell, if Jeff Saturday could have played the Raiders the whole time, he'd have had the job himself.
Oh, yeah, he would have had a statue outside of the Irsay compound, I think. If you had hired Josh McDaniels and it had not worked out, would Jim Irsay have given Chris Ballard another chance to hire a head coach? He got another chance after Frank Reich.
Oh, yeah, good point.
But Josh McDaniels, like Frank Reich was kind of the feel-good story, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of how he was viewed. And part of it was probably because Josh McDaniels left the Colts at the altar.
So you're saying, like, basically it was like house money. You pick
a little bit.
You pick a coach and he figured it out.
And
Look,
to
man,
be fair,
you weren't really supposed to anyway.
To be fair, Reich had success. They went to the playoffs the first year. They won a playoff game. 2020, they also went to the postseason. So it's not like Reich had just a barren resume.
Right.
But if McDaniels had whatever, a 3 or 4 year run with 1 playoff appearance, then do you start anew? Because there was a little bit of debate about that when it came to Josh McDaniels and that hire. So that's kind of another thought that I've had looking back on it.
When I also look at his decision to stay with the Patriots, and maybe you can see more of this, Kevin, how awkward must that have been for the assistants that he wanted on his staff? Because when you're making a decision that big as a head coach, or to take on a head coaching job, you're not just doing that for yourself. Like, you're not just controlling your life. You got probably 8 to 10 people that are going to be working for you, that are going to be joining your staff and changing where they live. And if you back out, what does that mean for them?
Well, that's what I recall, right? Is that they'd already hired some of the assistants.
Matt Eberflus being one of them, Mark.
Right. And when Reich came on, they ended up keeping a couple of them. But that was kind of like, okay, we've already made this commitment to you. We're not going to leave you high and dry like McDaniels did for us.
Yeah, it was kind of weird because, like, Eberflus had the history with Ballard back from the Chicago days a little bit. I think I had that right. basically, I think Ballard and Eberflus had some sort of history, sort of connection. Maybe it wasn't the Chicago days now that I say it out loud. But it was kind of like, wait, is that a Ballard defensive coordinator hire?
Yeah.
And like telling Josh McDaniels, here's your defensive coordinator? Because Ballard hated the Chuck Pagano defensive system. He wanted to overhaul the 3-4 and all that, and he did that. So yeah, that was a weird element to it. They had a couple of other defensive coaches that were kept on with Frank Reich. And the other thing that I do recall from this, and you very rarely see this in sports, usually it's the reverse of the relationship happening. How foreign or rare was this to see a person, a coach in this instance, backing out of an agreed to term situation? Josh McDaniels' agent fired Josh McDaniels. His agent left him. I mean, how many times do we see the agent go in the foxhole? The agent's like, I'm going down with that player, with that client.
The agent was like, you messed up my 3%.
Well, certainly that. But like that, I think, is a little bit of example, James, of how big of a deal this was.
Yeah.
Josh McDaniels still got hired to be a head coach.
Right.
Still made great money with the New England Patriots. So Zach Keefe will join us in a few to talk more about this. But our next in the What If series, we look back on the What If with Josh McDaniels. Again, 8 o'clock hour upcoming. We'll get to what happened last night over at Gamebridge Fieldhouse. If you fell asleep before the fourth quarter, consider yourself grateful, to be honest with you. It was one of the slowest moving quarters you'll ever see. Whistles galore. And Caitlin Clark getting her 5th technical in her eyes, extremely questionable. And she had some very passionate thoughts post-game about it. So we'll play that upcoming in the 8 o'clock hour. And Giannis Antetokounmpo off to the Miami Heat.
Giannis Antetokounmpo. I mean, look, Miami's cost of living is going to be a little bit higher, but perhaps you're in a better situation basketball-wise.
The wee hours of the morning last night, a slew of Miami role players, maybe better than role players. Tyler Hero's better than that. I should acknowledge that. 3 first-round picks. And just a reminder as we get into the draft tonight, first round tonight, second round tomorrow night, with the new lottery rules, the first-round picks, no matter if you think you're going to be great or not,
good point.
They carry more weight now. Because we could have teams in the middle-ish part of round 1 all of a sudden ascending to getting one of the top picks.
And to your point, Milwaukee just can't bottom out. They can't tank.
Correct.
Which is what these new rules kind of push back against. But they can't just say, okay, Miles Turner one-on-one, let's lose a bunch of games. You kind of have to figure out what you're going to do.
So it's interesting times when you see these trades now pop up here over the next 48 hours, 72 hours. Tony East at 9 to talk more about the Pacers, the fallout of this trade, what activity they could be doing here coming up on NBA draft nights, plurally. A lot to get to here on this beautiful Tuesday in the Circle City. Thanks for spending with us, Kevin Bowe and James Boyd. Mark Dykton on the ones and twos.
This is the Fan Morning Show with Kevin Bowen and James Boyd.
Boy, quite a busy Tuesday. Thanks for starting off, I guess, this Tuesday morning with us. Not many June 23rds have the news cycle that we have, but plenty to get to. We'll get into our What If series, looking back on Josh McDaniels leaving the Colts at the altar. Zach Kiefer was very present for that. He'll join us here in a few. But, James, we got a hit last night. And let's start with the association first. Giannis Antetokounmpo, Bobby Portis to the Miami Heat for a trade haul that includes Tyler Hero, Khalil Ware, Jaime Jaquez, a trio of first-round picks, the guard from Illinois, Casper, the Ghost. How do you pronounce that name?
I should look this up in the next break. I apologize for that, but yeah, I never really pronounced his last name, even when he attended my university.
Boy, he got buckets when he was at
He was
Illinois
good. Very
there.
good player for us.
So that trade last night, in your opinion, it alters the East in what way? Again, Boston was thought to be the other team with a Jaylen Brown, I believe, reported 2 first-round pick trade package, but Milwaukee elects to go with probably more the quantity haul of the Miami Heat.
Yeah, so if I'm looking at the landscape of the East, I'm saying obviously the Knicks are a contender. Boston is a contender. The Pacers, folks might get a little mad this morning. I would say they're on the TBD list. Got to see how things fit. But for the sake of the argument, I will put them like maybe on that second tier of teams because of the changes made to their roster, the health of Halliburton, how does he look? And maybe Miami's in that second or third tier because I don't view them as someone when they immediately, at least on paper, get together and say, oh, that's a championship roster. They can go win it. I think they have a puncher's chance because their best player in this scenario is Giannis, and he's proven that he can be the best player on the championship team, and he can be great in big moments. But I also realized when he won it in Milwaukee, that was 5 years ago. And his durability has kind of waned over the last few years to the point where he really isn't that reliable health-wise when it comes playoff time.
Yeah, I worry about Miami's shooting around Giannis. Right now your starting lineup is Davion Mitchell and the Larson kid from Arizona, maybe as your 1 and 2.
Yeah.
We'll see if Norman Powell's a free agent. I don't know how they make that puzzle work because he had a great year for the Heat. So that would be a question I would have. I don't think it significantly alters it too much at the top. I'm a little still skeptical on Miami being in that top tier.
Right.
I think if he went to Boston, there was more potential there, pairing him with Tatum. Obviously, you have some injury questions, but again, we'll see now the fallout for the rest of the league. 12 hours from now, we'll get the NBA draft started. Round 1 is tonight. Does this start the domino around the league? Again, Zach Kiefer going to join us here in a couple minutes, but I do want to make sure we'll play the Caitlin Clark audio coming up a little bit later here in this segment, James. But let's go hear from last night. Fever, awful first quarter. Caitlin Clark then great in the second. Fever really controlled the game the rest of the way. She's pretty adamant she'll get this 5th technical rescinded, or think she should is probably how I should phrase it. Do you think the technical she got whistled for last night will be rescinded?
No, not from what I saw and the replay, just because there was a clear chance to defuse the situation, and she instead went back over to where the players were, started clapping in the Phoenix players' faces. And that's a tech at any level of basketball, in my opinion.
So we'll get more into, I would say, a very probably the most passionate I've seen her post-game. Is that fair to say?
I'd have to go back and look. There's always passion from Caitlin Clark.
Yeah, but that one was that was spicy. When you mention an official by name a couple different times, it's
but
pretty
to be honest,
spicy.
that isn't her first time doing that, calling out official by their name. So.
Yeah. And you would certainly know that. All right, Zach Kiefer on the Payless Liquors hotline. Mark, how about we introduce our What If to Zach?
As you could see, we had a plan in place because we made an announcement that Josh was going to be our head football coach. I got a call Tuesday evening saying he had changed his mind.
A lot of different twists and turns in choosing head coaches.
You gave the man your word.
You settle upon a coach and a coach starts hiring assistants. You're right now already in the process of getting yourself ready for the combine.
We really feel blessed having Frank as our head coach.
Can't be more proud of our new head coach, Frank Wright.
Indeed, our What If series continues this summer. Josh McDaniels, 2018, about 72 hours after the Patriots had lost in the Super Bowl, he calls Chris Ballard to tell him that. And then a few weeks later, Frank Reich becomes the Colts head coach. And 18 months later, Andrew Luck retires. Zach Kiefer was on the Colts beat, of course, at that time. I think he was present inside of that Colts team meeting room, and Chris Ballard went to the podium that day after. Zach, first off, thank you for the time, especially early on this Tuesday morning. When Mark texted you and kind of explained the reason why we wanted to have you on, I'm sure it spurred some thoughts. What are those kind of initial thoughts when you think back to covering that McDaniels saga?
Yeah, good morning, guys. My initial thought was this is a really good idea for you guys. I'm anxious to hear a couple more. We can get to McDaniels, obviously, and it was a wild 72 hours, I will say that. The first thing that comes to mind was that this deal was in place for 3 weeks. This was done and wrapped up for 3 weeks. And I remember talking to people in the Colts building. They were starting to get a little antsy on that Tuesday. Because if you remember, and this is really sad, but this is part of the story as well, Edwin Jackson died on the night before the Super Bowl. He was a Colts linebacker at the time. And so Chris Ballard, the Colts new general manager at the time, he'd only been on the job about 8, 9, 10, 11 months, didn't even watch the Super Bowl that his coordinator, that the Patriots coordinator, his next head coach was coaching in. So it was a very weird, stressful time for the organization. Edwin Jackson was a very popular player. And so Chris Ballard spent that Super Bowl Sunday sitting in the Colts locker room crying with Matthias Farley and calling the family of Edwin Jackson and telling them those things. So all of a sudden, this bombshell hits the Colts organization. They have to deal with the tragedy, and McDaniel starts to get cold feet. And I remember people in the organization saying, well, he agreed to the deal verbally, but he still hasn't signed it. And he still hasn't said when he's going to hit the jet. Irsay's jet was waiting for him in Foxborough, and he still hasn't signed it, and he still hasn't hopped on the jet. And so about midday Tuesday, the Colts building started to get a little nervous.
So, Zach, and thanks for joining us. Again, that's the voice of Zach Kiefer, now a, senior national big-time reporter for The Athletic. I'm just joking. But he does great work for us. And, Zach, when I was going back through this, because obviously I wasn't here in the state, but I remember at the time that I felt like the Colts were getting the double whammy of, okay, the coach just backed out. And I get that in the 2018 season, Andrew Luck was really, really good. But going into that season, there were some questions about his shoulder. So at that time, when McDaniels backs out and Andrew Luck's shoulder is still kind of up in the air, when all that is laid out in front of you, what was the feeling within the franchise when you have two huge questions at quarterback and at coach?
Did you hear that, KB? There were questions about Andrew Luck's shoulder. That might be, James, that might be the understatement of my lifetime. For those of us that were there, it consumed the beat for about 18, 19 months. It was exhausting. To your point, guys, it was a really hard season in 2017. A lot of the fans started to check out. The team was unwatchable. And from what I heard, Andrew Luck was really pissed that Josh McDaniels left them at the altar. Andrew Luck is not a guy that coaches don't want to coach. Right? He's not a player that you run away from. He's not a player you say no to. Any college in the country would have taken him. Any team in the league would have taken him number one in 2012. So this was the first time a coach kind of looked at him and said no. Granted, there were a ton of questions. This guy showed up, after his initial rehab, really skinny. He wasn't throwing the football. I don't need to rehash this for your listeners, but it was a dark time for him and for the organization. And the other interesting thing is Jim Irsay let Chris Ballard run this search by himself. This was Chris Ballard's thing. He went out to Foxborough. He called Jim Irsay from Foxborough and said, please, please, please come out here to meet Josh McDaniels. And remember, this was icy between the Colts and the Patriots still. This was a couple of years after Deflategate. We don't need to relitigate that, but the Patriots fans and the organization was still very ticked off at the Indianapolis Colts, at Irsay, and specifically Ryan Grayson, because he was the one who sent the email to say, hey, you need to check on the inflation levels of these footballs. So anyway, to put a bow on your point, Andrew was ticked, and really Frank Reich saved them because he was a grown-up He was a man of character. The players gravitate towards him. And I don't think Andrew has the season he has in 2018 with Josh McDaniels. Frankly, I think it would have been a disaster. I think it would have been a disaster based on his run with the Denver Broncos previously and then his run in the future with the Las Vegas Raiders. I mean, Matt Ryan, who was probably 45 years old at this point, he went to Las Vegas and beat Josh McDaniels' Las Vegas Raiders. So never really that impressed with Josh McDaniels' head coaching candidacy. I don't think it would have went well. I don't think it would have been a good thing for Chris Ballard. And someone told me high up in the organization the same night that Josh McDaniels ditched the team, he said, you know what, this sucks right now, but I'm glad it happened right now and not 3 months from now or not 12 months from now.
And that's the voice of Zach Kiefer from The Athletic, our What If series. And thank you to Susan here on the text line. She said she is enjoying this. Great idea from Mark here in the summer. A lot to get to on this Tuesday morning, but we'll try to hit all the tentacles. A few more minutes left with Zach. A couple things I wanted to get to off of this, Zach. One is this, in simplest terms, because I don't know if we've gotten a great answer. You think Josh McDaniels backed out because why?
I think he was scared.
Scared of luck? Scared of luck situation or scared of being a head coach again?
Scared of being a head coach again. And luck certainly played a role in it, right? Like the whole league didn't know. It was weird, man. It was really weird. Like he wasn't throwing the football. Andrew was nowhere to be seen. He went to Amsterdam for 2 months. He talked to this weird doctor. Like there was a lot of unknown around him, and we can't underplay that. But I think the thing with McDaniels, I mean, I was talking to his dad for 2 weeks, getting the story ready to go for when he was a head coach. And then all of a sudden, like 2 days before, he starts ghosting me. I'm like, this is really weird. We were talking a lot. So there were these signs of this. And then he shows up to work on Tuesday after the Super Bowl to tell Belichick and to tell Kraft that he's leaving. Everybody knows he's leaving. They announced it on the Super Bowl broadcast. This is the coordinator for the New England Patriots. He will be the Indianapolis Colts coach in 2 days. And everybody knew it. Belichick knew it. So they lose the Super Bowl. And remember, it was a very incredible Super Bowl, right? It was the Nick Foles game. So the Patriots are crushed. They lost this game to this backup quarterback. He shows up to work, and the Patriots basically don't let him accept the job. I mean, Belichick and Kraft put the full court press on him all day, and McDaniels didn't stick to his word. And I think that's part of it. He was scared of failing again because Denver had scarred him the first time around. And then I think he was scared of disappointing Belichick and Kraft. And it kind of speaks to how his tenure went with the Raiders the second time he was a head coach, right? They never really got it rolling. He had that big team meeting where he said, don't ever say anything bad about the Patriots, and all the players revolted. I just don't think it would have been a good fit. And Chris Ballard to this day will tell you, what was I thinking?
Kind of going off that last point, Zach, just a couple branches that I've thought about and looking back on this event. One is this, you bring up Ballard thinking that to himself. I don't think we've ever kind of viewed the Josh McDaniels backing out as like a massive negative on the Ballard resume. Clearly the Irsay family didn't think that. They allowed him to hire, Frank Reich, and then they allowed him to now hire Shane Steichen. So I guess my question would be this. What if I have about the situation is, had McDaniels gone through and been the coach, but flamed out, does Ballard get another chance to hire a head coach? Because McDaniels was thought to be a little risky. That's thought one. The other thought is this, and you'll recall, in the first wave of that hiring cycle, they also interviewed Mike Vrabel. Had McDaniels told them no right away, what if Mike Vrabel's the head coach? Or, instead of Frank Reich, and I think he was kind of the safe choice, had Colts ties, just won the Super Bowl as a coordinator, they also interviewed Dan Campbell in that second wave. You think just culturally, Campbell or Vrabel with this team? Vrabel ended up taking the Titans job that offseason. Boy, it could have looked a whole lot different culturally, I'd say, more than anything, in regards to, what the head coach would have brought to Indianapolis.
I love this question because it's so fascinating. I did a story about Dan Campbell a couple of years ago in Detroit and reached out to Chris and asked him, what was he like in that interview? And he said he crushed it. So what are the following pieces if Dan Campbell comes to Indianapolis in 2018 and takes over, right? That's fun. Vrabel was, again, a very successful player who was a very mediocre coordinator for 1 year for the Houston Texans.
Right.
And John Robinson, his buddy from New England, hired him in Tennessee. And KB, you remember this. Jim Irsay was utterly obsessed with Mike Vrabel. Like, he brought him up to me and to other reporters all the time. He brought him up to Frank Reich. Why can't our teams play like his teams? I mean, you look at the rosters, the Colts had more talent in a lot of those situations than the Titans did with Tannehill and I guess Derrick Henry, but the Titans owned the Colts for a long time under Mike Vrabel, and that drove Jim Irsay crazy. But Chris had decided to himself, and he's told me this, Chris had decided he was going offense. He was going offense because Chuck Pagano was out. They needed an offensive coach. He was in Kansas City right as Mahomes was getting going, and he saw where the league was going. I don't fault him for that. That was absolutely the right move. Now, he picked the wrong guy. To answer your first question, does Chris get another chance? I don't know. I really don't know. Now, Jim Irsay grew very fond of Chris Ballard. Chris has done pretty well in the draft room. Remember, he had just hit really big on Quentin Nelson, hit really big on Darius Leonard. There was a couple more. I mean, he put together a really good roster that was going to win, I thought, for a couple of years if the quarterback had stayed. We don't need to get into that conversation. But I don't think Chris gets 10 years. And I don't know if Chris gets another chance to hire, a coach like Shane Steichen after that coach flames out. Because remember, he's on his fourth head coach if you count Jeff Saturday, which, let's be honest, Chris had nothing to do with. So it's a fun what if, but I just think this team slowly starts to fall down a couple pegs. If Josh McDaniels comes here, there would have been something that would have happened. There would have been some kind of, I just don't think the players would have responded to him the way they did Frank Reich. And Frank Reich was really, really good for a couple of years in balancing those things. And it ended, but I think with Josh McDaniels, it would have been a much more bigger black mark on Chris Ballard's resume for sure.
Yeah, I think that's a really fair statement. Zach, thanks for going down memory lane with us. Hopefully we can get out on the golf course later this summer, man. Thank you.
That was fun. What are the others, if you don't mind me asking? I'm thinking the Gordon Hayward shot.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did Hayward last.
Tyrese, Game 7.
Yeah, we did Hayward last Thursday. We did the Brawl last Tuesday. We found that one interesting. Mark Monteith joined us, Zach, and he shared a story that he kind of felt like David Stern had some regret looking back on suspending Artest for the full season and the playoffs. And you'll recall this growing up in the city. The Pacers went on to play the Pistons in that playoffs, ironically enough. Can you imagine if
Reggie's
Artest
last game?
Right, Reggie's last game. Can you imagine if Artest would have been back for that series and what that first game at Auburn Hills would have looked like?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
The National Guard ready.
Yeah, so we got a few more, and I'll let Mark reveal those when he would like, but thank you for the time, man.
Good stuff. Great idea, Mark. Thanks, guys.
Zach Kiefer, right there, Payless Liquors hotline. Tons of topics to get to in regards to what happened last night in the league and all of that. We will get to that Caitlin Clark audio here as we hit a morning checkdown.
The Morning Checkdown on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
All right, James, we'll discuss the Giannis trade to the Miami Heat here in just a second, but feel free to set this up. Last night, Fever pull away from the Mercury. I thought in rather notable fashion there. Bad first quarter, really played well the rest of the way. Caitlin Clark, Kelsey Mitchell. Shout out to Mo Billings, a double-double for her last night, but the fourth quarter was quite the tough watch. 6 technicals in total, and a very fired-up Caitlin Clark postgame.
Yes, Caitlin Clark got her 5th technical foul of the season, 8, and you get suspended for 1 game. So she's closing in on possibly missing time for her team, which is fighting for a playoff spot.
And again, this was Caitlin Clark postgame. Obviously, you'll hear James's voice here. Little bit of a back and forth. She was whistled for the first technical in what turned out to be 6 of them. Only 1 on her, to be clear. Maisha Hines-Allen actually got tossed from the game after pushing Alyssa Thomas on the very next possession. But as you'll hear here, Caitlin Clark not very happy.
Got the tech tonight, 5th of the season.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I got a technical for clapping. So, if we should all just go on the calendar now and pick a game that I'm going to be suspended for if I'm going to get technicals for clapping. I asked Gerda. Gerda said that I got a technical for clapping. So if any technical should be taken away, it should be that one. If it's truly for clapping, that's what they said they gave it to me for was for clapping. So it's just ridiculous. I don't understand it at all.
So even within that, though, how aware do you have to be of the 8 technical fouls?
I mean, I'm going to play with emotion. I'm going to play with passion. And if they're going to give me a technical foul for clapping, then so be it. That's their choice. And the league can come back and review that play. And I'd love to hear what they say of the reasoning of why I got the technical foul in that situation and why other players on their team didn't get a technical foul in that situation. If anything, split it. Okay, fine. Everybody gets a technical foul. That wasn't how they were handed out. So I'd love to know. But obviously, that's what I went to Gerda and said. I said, why'd you give me a technical foul? She said, because I was clapping and instigating. I said, okay, then you just don't like competitive basketball. And that's just facts. That's just reality. So disappointing from them.
James, you said earlier you do not think the league will rescind this technical.
No, I don't think so. If you go back and watch the video, there was an opportunity for Caitlin to help diffuse the situation, and they had kind of separated the players. She kind of goes back towards the Phoenix players and begins clapping very loudly towards them, which that's a technical foul at any level of the sport, in my opinion. Now, we'll see what the league has to say about it. Their opinion matters more than mine, but that's not one where I feel like they got it wrong.
I said this earlier. I think her body language stinks. I think her cop-out excuse of it's me being passionate is a tad lazy and is not truly indicative of all of, frankly, the antics she has with regards to her body language. I've mentioned it before. I think her body language to her teammates is frustrating at times. Everybody, to a degree, whines to the officials. That's probably the reality of, the NBA, as much as it is the WNBA. But now it's getting to a point where it's jeopardizing this team's, first off, it could have sparked something in Phoenix getting back into it last night. But even if you don't want to play that card, I mean, she is 3 technicals away, 5 technicals in 17 games. She's 3 away with what, James? 28 games to go in the season, 27 games to go in the season, from being suspended for a game for a team that is on the brink of the playoffs.
Right.
And whether you want to say it's a home court in round 1 series, it's just making the playoffs, you can't have your emotions spill over to that. I'm all for passion. But when it leads to that, as a star player, you've got to know where the line is. And I think far too often she just crosses it and risks this behavior. There were times last night I thought she was about to get a second technical.
Exactly. And that's my other point. I think that she already gets a pretty long leash as it is as a star player, but you can only get so much rope before they have to officiate you like other players. And I know people will tell me, Caitlin Clark fans, Fever fans, oh, so-and-so did this in the other game. Don't care. The way Caitlin Clark acts at times is just too much. And I think the league is right to kind of step in or have their officials officiate and call a technical foul when they see it's necessary. So I would be shocked if that is rescinded.
Yeah, and honestly, I thought it was a shame because she was outstanding in that second quarter last night. I mean, she hit those two deep threes. I mean, that got that crowd ignited and frankly was needed to get the Fever back into the game. So these two teams play tomorrow. So yeah, get the fireworks ready and set your DVR for probably 2 hours after the game's supposed to end because I think there'll be whistles galore coming up tomorrow night. Fever and Mercury again inside of Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Marked yesterday a Stars Day for the World Cup. Individual play, incredible from, I guess, the 3 best players in the world. I don't know. I probably shouldn't say that.
It's funny because like they started off the World Cup all on fire. And like, well, there's no way they're matching this again. And then all of them, pair of goals from Messi, pair of goals from Mbappe, pair of goals for Holland. Unbelievable.
The second Holland goal. Oh, my God. So I have Senegal in our draft. And I'm like, Senegal had just cut it to 2-1. I'm like, here we go. And then that third goal was just insane. And the Messi, he missed the penalty kick yesterday early in that game. And shout out to his teammate. I have no idea who the guy is, number 16. Letting that ball go through his legs to let Messi just get a great, in-stride run up on it. Man.
I don't know if you saw the second Mbappe goal, but
yeah, what happened there?
Complete
that
brain
looked like
fart
me
by
coaching
the Iraqi
soccer
defender.
Yeah.
And he just passed it back to the goalie and just went way wide and just right to France. And then they just he tapped it to Mbappe and boom, right in the net. I'm like, what are you doing?
It's kind of crazy that, by the way, Mbappe is right behind Messi on the all-time World Cup goals list, and he's so much younger. And nothing to take away from Messi. He's an all-time great, probably the greatest in a lot of people's minds, but it's also insane that a dude is right there on his heels in the same World Cup.
Mark, the Limes 3- and 4-year-old soccer, we had a game this year where there were 13 goals scored. 8-5 was the final
Look
score.
at that.
Yeah, 8-5, right? High scoring affair. The other team scored all 13.
Oh, boy.
How does that keep happening?
I was going to say, this is a trend.
They put 5 in their own net for us. But hey, if I just say 8-5, you guys reacted like, oh,
Yeah.
that was an entertaining game to go to.
I need like the stats of your team of who's actually leading in goals right
I was
now.
going to say, man, I'm questioning the coaching now, Mark.
I am too.
Oh,
No orange slices for anybody until we get
1000%.
them in the net.
I mean, listen to me. I know nothing about soccer, and hell, it's herding cattle and it's telling kids to get up and stop crying and tie shoes. That's pretty much.
Max, stop drawing your name in the dirt.
Well, yes, yeah, that is abundantly true. Major League Baseball, I texted Joel A. Erickson last night when his pitcher had a perfect game against my Reds. It worked to stop the perfect game, but, of course, Joel got the last laugh. Brewers win in extras over the Reds. White Sox walk off over the Guardians. What a big series for them with those two teams in the AL North. Your Cubs postponed again, but a different city, right, Mark?
Back-to-back games, yeah. The series finale against Toronto at Wrigley got postponed on Sunday. Then they go to New York, and that one got postponed till Wednesday. So they're playing a day-night doubleheader on Wednesday now.
Speaking of baseball, Boomer Sooner, your national champion in the College World Series. It is the 7th straight year we've had an SEC team win the College Baseball World Series, and they were 11th in the SEC in the regular season. 11th. And they get on a run like that to win it all. Dusty May to the Dallas Mavericks. We discussed this a little bit earlier, James. To me, it was more of a win, not if. I don't think this is near the Brad Stevens level shock, to be totally honest with you on that front there. But your thoughts on seeing that news yesterday of the Michigan head coach heading to Coach Cooper Flag?
I know Matt Norlander is a big college basketball insider. He had a story on CBS Sports yesterday, and it detailed this moment where he was mid-interview with Dusty May, and Dusty had to take a call from like a high-level transfer, got a verbal commitment from the player, but then he sits back down. He's like, well, Dusty, why aren't you happier? Well, now we got to deal with the agent. And long story short, the player never came to Michigan, and that was a microcosm of the stuff he doesn't want to deal with. Is I think I got a player. I know I can coach him. I know I've done enough to earn this player's trust, but it's all about money and NIL earnings and, flaky agents and stuff like that kind of pushed him out of the sport. And now he has an opportunity to go to the NBA, probably get a massive raise, and get a chance to coach Cooper Flag.
So, again, that news yesterday will open up the portal here. Sounds like Mike Boynton, the top assistant there for Dusty May at Michigan, will be the interim head coach, but still, it'll open up the portal. And Michigan had quite the haul here this offseason. And again, the Giannis trade last night. Tyler Hero, Jaime Jaquez, Khalil Ware, a trio of first-round picks. That is all heading to the Milwaukee Bucks. Hierarchy of the Eastern Conference. I still don't view Miami as on that top tier. Maybe I'll regret that, but I worry about depth, and I worry about enough shooting around Giannis and Bam Adebayo. And even Andrew Wiggins can be a streaky shooter there. So the Celtics, they do not get Giannis, and Tony East going to join us coming up at 9 o'clock. We'll talk more about the fallout of this trade. And just remind everybody, NBA draft is tonight. It is round 1, 5 minutes for each pick here. Don't think I've seen any mock drafts with Braden Smith into round 1. Round 2 coming up tomorrow night. And locally, we don't have any Indy high schoolers either, right? We had that long run there of an Indy high schooler going in round 1, unless I'm missing somebody. I don't think we do have any.
No, I don't think so. I would have to check Indy Star. I know they do a great job of keeping track of where our alums are, but I think the only, local ties are worried about this morning is Khalil Ware. Obviously, the prized possession in this Giannis trade. Not Giannis, it's Khalil Ware.
Boy, and I say this in all seriousness, I'd rather have Khalil Ware than Miles Turner.
You don't want to see Miles Turner ISO ball? Miles Turner, you got it, baby. Keys to the franchise.
I mean, I'm half kidding, half serious. I think Miles Turner might be the big contract that just gets moved every 6 months now in the NBA.
Yeah, this is quite the fall from the perch there with the Pacers. You were a game away from winning it all, and now you're with a team that will not win very many games at all. And as you pointed to, you're going to be probably a trade salary matcher.
Again, coming up, Colts question of the day to get to. Much more on our What If series and quite the newsy day in the sports world. We'll get you set for the NBA draft coming up tonight. Tony East joins us at 9. Fan Morning Show here, 93.5, 107.5, The Fan.
We are tracking a bright and beautiful day across central Indiana. Mostly sunny skies with a high near 78 degrees. Tonight, mostly clear with lows in the upper 50s. I'm Fox 59 meteorologist Amber Hardwick for The Fan.
Indoor and outdoor concrete, Galaxy Concrete Coatings, garages, basements, patios, porches, and sidewalks. You can contact them, galaxyconcretecoatings.com. Home and residential, both of those, or I should say workplace and residential, they offer. And I think when you go to their website, galaxyconcretecoatings.com, the styles will speak a lot to you. You know, our home is 100 years old. Is there really something that's going to make sense for us? We found that. The Jupiter style, again, it's indoor and it's outdoor concrete. So that's sidewalks, porches, patios, basement, garages. That's what Galaxy Concrete Coatings specializes in. It's indoor and outdoor concrete. Head to their website, galaxyconcretecoatings.com. See the pictures, and from there, manufacturers upgrade the warranty from 15 years to lifetime. Very efficient on-site, Tyler and Preston, in and out in 24 hours. So you can contact them after that. Again, it's galaxyconcretecoatings.com. Indoor and outdoor concrete.
talking all of that. No, I can't forget about my.
This is the Fan Morning Show with Kevin Bowen and James Boyd.
Well, a ton to get to here on this Tuesday morning. It's well on the back burner for us here, but 12 hours from now, James Boyd, is it Darren Peterson or Cameron Boozer at number 2?
I'm going to say it's Darren Peterson.
Now, you are more of a Boozer guy, right? Or I feel like you...
I'm higher on him than most.
Okay. All right, would you take him over Peterson?
I probably wouldn't. But I think that him over Caleb Wilson is a real conversation. And I get right now it's slotted for Wilson to go fourth, but a lot of people keep telling me the upside, the athleticism with Wilson, but I don't know, man. Don't get me wrong. I love his mentality, motor, athleticism, all of it. But is there something to be said about Cameron Boozer being the best player every single time these guys line up? He was a National Player of the Year as a freshman. I don't want to just dismiss that. So we'll see what happens later tonight. But I know in Chicagoland, my folks back home are pretty excited to land a second Caleb after having Caleb Williams come there a couple years ago.
Washington, Utah, Memphis, Chicago. That is your top 4 for tonight here in round 1. And then, of course, the Clippers with the Pacers pick.
Don't remind me.
So are you telling me, like, Keaton Wagler is going to put on a Pacers hat? Or is that not? Are we finally through it with the NBA where we can put on proper hats? Like,
I think theirs is official, so he would be able to wear the Clippers hat.
Okay.
But I think with the Giannis stuff, because one of the first-round picks is this year.
Miami 15 overall.
Yeah, they have to wear the hat for the wrong team for the entire night, which is so stupid, but I digress.
Again, I haven't seen Braden Smith really mocked into round 1 in anything. I did see where Bennett Sturts from Iowa is favored to be a top 20 pick. I'm like, is Ben Sturts that much better than Braden Smith? I mean,
well, yes, because of the size.
Yeah, and they're different stylistically.
Yeah,
you know, I think Braden is probably going to be more of a pass first guy with the second unit, whereas Bennett Sturts probably a little bit more of a score first there. But yeah, size is definitely a good point that you bring up with that. So 5 minutes tonight for round 1. Again, round 2 coming up tomorrow night for the NBA draft. And with this Giannis domino, we saw Julius Randle traded yesterday as well. We're starting to see some activity. And again, I've kind of the next 7 to 10 days. That's when the Pacers can make moves. And I know I shared this yesterday, and it's a little bit on the boring side, but it's the reality of where the Pacers are at right now. Just to remind everybody with the draft here, starting with the draft, they can trade their 2027 first-round pick. Now, they can't trade 28, 29, or 30. The 29 pick is already with the Clippers, and then NBA rules say you can't trade picks in consecutive years, so you can't trade 28 or 30. I believe of the 3 first-round picks that Giannis was traded for in that trade package last night, a couple of them were in the 2030s. The Pacers also could move their 2031 or their 2032 picks. So, again, these are things that do matter if the Pacers are going to make some notable move here in regards to adding to their group. So, Tony East going to join us here coming up in 20, and we'll talk more about it with him, but that is something we could see. I don't say this in a joking manner at all, but if you're an IU fan and you've dreamt about Dusty May to IU, yesterday was a good day for you, right? Dusty May's not going to leave Michigan and go right to IU. He'll leave the NBA to come back to college, though.
Here you go with this.
I mean, seriously. Right? He's not going to leave Michigan and all of a sudden go to like a counter Big Ten school.
Brother, he ain't coming back to college. That's where I'm at with Dusty May.
I think that's going to be the case for a lot of college coaches with this NIL situation and all that. I think they're getting sick of it because it's not like it used to be with the recruiting. It's like, hey, if a pro team comes calling, you're telling me I don't have to do this song and dance every single year? Sign me up.
I think this. We've talked about the Brendan Sorsby thing over the last week or so, and you guys have heard me say, I think there's a possibility for it to be a big inflection point of finally enough is enough. We have got to get some control, some stability, some policing, guardrails. Like, to me, this Dusty May news should open up the eyes of people that are huge decision makers in regards to this stuff. When you hear, by all accounts, and Matt Norlander is super plugged in, college basketball writer with Dusty May, and he's saying it is because of the college basketball landscape and why he's leaving. Like, I hate that the chaos, the instability that we all know needs controlling right now is contributing to one of the most promising young coaches who has risen through the college ranks. It's not an NBA background with Dusty May. He doesn't have immense ties to the league by any means. He loves college basketball by all accounts. But yet this current state has sent a young coach too. I mean, he's on the younger side. This is not it's not John Beeline or whatever.
Right.
This is a younger coach that is saying, yeah, I don't want it, and I just want a national title with it. I mean, shouldn't that open up more ears to people realizing we need to create a little bit more on the stability front to make sure that the work-life balance for an NBA coach is not infinitely better than it is for an NBA coach?
Well, college coach, you mean? But yes.
Sorry, college coach.
I agree. But here is, to your point, the exact scenario I was talking about. Shout out to Matt Norlander, great college sports writer for CBS. He had a story here that he posted yesterday, and it says in an excerpt, this is May talking to a highly regarded player in the transfer portal. The player called May, so he popped out of his chair and had to put our interview on pause for a few moments to see what was happening. During his conversation, the player verbally committed to play for Michigan next season, a huge development. When the call was over, I congratulated him. Then he chuckled, saying something to the effect of, just because he committed doesn't mean he's coming. We will have to deal with the agent. The story gets even stranger. This player verbally reinforced his commitment to May 2 more times in the ensuing weeks. The agent was a handful, though, and so Michigan never got him. He'll be playing elsewhere next season. That's the portal recruiting experience in a nutshell. Scenarios like this are as much of the reason why May wants out as anything. Can you imagine trying to court somebody? You just won a national championship. You're arguably the best coach in the sport. He commits to you, and now you got an agent telling you, well, actually, I need an extra zero on that. That would drive me nuts.
Yeah. And again, I think it's just creating a little bit more of the 12-month chaos that it is.
Yeah.
There's no I mean, obviously the Pacers missed the playoffs, but like Rick Carlisle has had several months away from the team, Like there is an element of like, when the structure is, when the draft is, when free agency is,
Yep.
When, again, like create a little bit of a calendar. Okay, this is what we're following. The NFL does a brilliant job with the 12-month calendar.
Mm-hmm.
Brilliant job with it. I think college landscape could go a long, long way. I mean, that's just one, I think, of the many things that we could use a little bit more on the policing from. Tony East going to join us in 15. It is night one of the NBA draft. We see a whole lot of activity around the league with this Giannis trade. What does it all mean for the Pacers? We'll chat with Tony in 15.
This is the Fan Morning Show with Kevin Bowen and James Boyd.
NBA draft night is here. We'll talk with Tony Easton 10 about that. The Giannis trade. Get back into our what if series. Josh McDaniels leaving the Colts at the altar. We'll do that coming up a little bit later in the 9 o'clock hour. Thank you to Zach Kiefer for joining us earlier. I mean, you listen to Zach say, I'd been talking to Josh McDaniels' dad for 2 weeks about writing a big story on his son becoming the head coach. Like, just all those little things of like how real this was and how much it was stunning to the nature where his agent literally fired Josh McDaniels. Talk about something you don't see typically very often.
I will fire you too if I set you up for millions of dollars, Kevin, and you left. Come on now.
Gosh, how great would that be if somehow that was our partnership?
I'll tell you what, we'd be having different roles here on the show.
Man,
might be owning this place.
We'd be flying to Charlotte next week or wherever you're going in a private jet here. This is from Brandon. Am I crazy to think the Bucks won the trade? Depth, and they gave up so much. So, again, just to rehash the Giannis trade, Giannis and Bobby Portis to the Heat, and in return, the Milwaukee Bucks get Tyler Hero, Khalil Ware, Jaime Jaquez. Eddie Garrison just popped his head in here. How are we pronouncing the former Illinois guard's name?
I already forgot.
Yakachunas?
That sounds correct.
Okay. And 3 first-round picks. You going with Brandon at all?
Brandon, you're on your own with that, brother. I think anytime you trade an all-time great player, you're always going to lose that trade.
Is there something to be said? It starts the new era, though, earlier? Like, it was
it's a smart
not going
decision.
anywhere for the Bucks?
It's a smart decision, but I can't sit here and say you're better off because you got rid of a top 75 player to ever play the game of basketball.
Yeah,
I can't go that far.
Yeah, honestly, the Bucks, I will say this, they deserve some credit for being able to retain Giannis for as long as they did.
Yeah.
Just because.
And they got it done with him. At least they did win one.
1,000%. And in today's sports climate, when you win, you never apologize.
No.
Are the Knicks apologizing for the Mikal Bridges trade package? No.
Not today.
They got their title. And 2, in this day and age of sports climate, particularly in the NBA, keeping a star for a decade is also super rare. And I don't care if it took every person on the family tree of Giannis to play for the Bucks to keep him happy.
Okay, so that was my next question. This is a serious matter. The Thanasis Antetokounmpo, older brother of Giannis, is he getting bought out? He can't stay in Milwaukee and his brother's going to Miami.
All I know
what kind
is
of brotherhood is that?
If I turn on a Heat game next year and I see Giannis's brother and Udonis Haslem in jerseys, then we got issues.
We got issues? No, we got tradition.
Is Udonis Haslem still making money? Is that like the Pacers still paying Monte Ellis?
Nah, he's now on the NBA Prime show.
Oh, is that what Halliburton's been on?
Yeah. So he's finally done collecting the checks from Miami. But I tell you what, I would love to be a locker room guy. Locker room guys can get about 3 more years of checks just by being good people. Shout out James Johnson, locker room guy for the Pacers.
Darryl Armstrong back in the day.
There you go.
So true. By the way, and James, you were out last week, so I'll ask you about this. James Boyd, when you have a child one day.
Oh, I'm getting nervous. Don't jinx me, but go ahead.
When that child loses their first tooth and the tooth fairy comes knocking on James Boyd's door, what do you think that financial negotiation will look like between the tooth fairy for tooth number 1?
I'm trying to think. Did I ever get anything for losing my teeth when I was a kid?
I remember getting 4 quarters.
I got to go back. You see, my parents skipped a few steps along the way. I got to go back and get reparations for this stuff.
Jim's got a pat on the back and a stick of gum.
I don't think I ever got
probably.
anything for losing my teeth. Shout out to the Boyds who were cheapskates. But nevertheless, I think.
Do you have a fair price for tooth number 1, you think?
I'm not going over $5. I'm sorry. That groan from Mark tells me that I'm lowballing.
You hear that groan?
What did you give up?
Did you hear that groan?
Hold up. What did you give up for the first tooth?
Me?
Please don't tell me you give a $20 bill to somebody for a tooth.
To be fair, negotiations with the tooth fairy, and the tooth fairy sets the price, but you can have a back and forth. Mark Dyke, you want to share what the Brownsburg inflation is?
I mean, $5 for Five Below.
I know at times there's a lot of recruiting going on out there in Brownsburg, and it sounds like the Tooth Fairy might have been part of this.
Well, I will preface this by saying that the Dykton household and apparently the Rakestraw household, Mr. Andrew Jackson pays a visit on the first tooth. And then after that, the denominations drop, but the Tooth Fairy makes a special exception for the first one and then goes down. Again, you have to adjust for inflation. Tooth Fairy's been in the game for a long time. She knows what's up. She knows Five Below means $5 is the bare minimum. You need a little bit more than that these days to get off. You got to cover tax and everything like that.
I heard that. I was like, I might start ripping my teeth out and see if We Grow Hair Indy can put.
I was about to say $20.
Some new teeth in. Rosie Bowe, first tooth out last night. The Tooth Fairy made a visit to the Bowen household.
May I inquire about this visit financially?
And from what I've gathered, I wasn't there this morning, of course, when she woke up, but I heard 5 pesos.
Okay.
For tooth number 1. And also on the note, the Tooth Fairy said you can keep the first tooth, maybe to go in a baby book or something.
Oh, there you go.
How about that? Very nice.
Here's
gesture from the
Derek
Tooth
White.
Fairy.
That's why your parents are retired, James. They were smart with their money.
Be working until I'm 94.
$20 from Mark Dykton. Man, I heard that, James, last week, and I got a little sweaty because Rosie was like, this thing's wiggling down here, and I'm like, 20?
She's going to be like, hey, Uncle Mark said I could get Andrew Jackson to come pay me a visit.
If she loses that tooth at a sleepover at the Dykton household, she might be like, Dad, what's going on over here?
Hope she doesn't see the Dykton girls in the playground anytime soon. It was a busy night in the association. It'll be another busy night in the league tonight. What does it all mean for the Indiana Pacers? Tony East will wake them up coming up here in 5 minutes. Any more group campus out there in Avon? 4 different brands. It is Toyota, Kia, Volkswagen, and Nissan. The Kia brand, that's GM Joe. Tell him Kevin Bowen sent you. You've got the summer sticker sales event out there. It's live. You can win up to $750 off that sticker price. Tons of inventory. Great convenience for you on site. Telluride, the K4, a little smaller, nice gas mileage on that. The hybrid route, if that is something that you want to entertain, most models available in hybrids there. So again, that's the Kia brand, Andy Moore Group Campus out there in Avon off of Rockville Road. Head out there today. It's a one-stop shop. Toyota, Nissan, Volkswagen, and Kia. Tell them Kevin Bowen sent you. Rockville Road, always a place to be in Avon. Andy Moore Group Campus. 4 different brands waiting for you today. We Grow Hair Indy, the gold standard for hair restoration. Northwest side, that would be building number 2 there at the Pyramids. Darren Andrews and his staff are ready to help you out today. They're actually one of 2 clinics in the entire U.S. to offer both the multi-unit hair grafting, which I would say probably more of their patients have done. And then I got done the other one, the Artist Robotic FUE hair procedure. Basically, I talked with Darren. He was like, Kevin, you're a very good candidate. You got good, healthy hair in the back. We just got to get some of that up front, and the robot did all the work from there. So again, that's some of the conversation you'll have. Obviously, questions you want answers to. So free evaluation, private evaluation, virtual evaluation, all of that available to you at We Grow Hair Indy. The gold standard for hair restoration, Northwest side, building number 2 at the Pyramids. The best in the business right here in our own backyard. We Grow Hair Indy.
Fan Morning Show with Kevin Bowen and James Boyd.
9 o'clock hour on what looks to be a beautiful Tuesday here in Indy. It was quite the news cycle. Really, as soon as we signed off yesterday, James, Dusty May to the Mavericks, and then as the day moved along, it was like, okay, are we going to get one more sleep in before the Giannis domino falls?
Yeah.
And you probably were still at Gainbridge Fieldhouse, maybe just got in your car.
I was still there.
Still there?
Yep.
When Giannis was announced to the Miami Heat, and obviously we have tonight the NBA draft, and we really appreciate our next guest for joining us. I hope a nap is in his schedule at some point today. From Locked On Pacers, Circle City Spin, he is Tony East. Tony, good morning, sir.
Good morning. I love that we get to talk right after Giannis is traded. Perfect timing.
Your voice was in my ears in my commute down this morning, and if I heard you correctly, you liked the Heat trade package more than the Boston Celtics trade package in regards, I assume, to the Bucks. Is that correct? You were more of a fan of this trade versus Jaylen Brown and a couple first-round picks?
Yeah, I am. I think first-rounders' values have certainly changed a lot in this new world where they're so random in their value with the new lottery rules, and maybe none of them turn out to be awesome, but Yakushonis and Ware and Jaquez are already kind of all good, and there's a chance that they grow into more. So I feel like getting already certainly good young players is more effective than some lottery tickets. And of course, they would have gotten a lot of stuff for Jaylen Brown, but I like the direction that they chose here. Yes.
Again, that's the voice of Tony East. You can hear him on Locked On Pacers as well. Check out his work at Circle City Spin. I think you're a hater, Tony. I think that you just didn't want, Jason Tatum and Giannis to be paired up together. But jokes aside, we were talking about the landscape now of the Eastern Conference. Obviously, when a player like Giannis switches teams and he stays in this conference, it changes the power landscape a little bit. But do you think, although he might be in a better situation, that the Heat are a contending team, or where would you kind of stack them up on the short list of teams at the top of the conference?
Yeah, I do think that's one of the big ripple effects is him not going to the Celtics for the rest of the East. Who knows where Jason Tatum's level is for the rest of his career, next season, whatever. But there's a chance that the team in the entire NBA with the best top two players would have been the Celtics had he gone there. And so that would have been quite a challenge for everybody. Whereas Miami, don't get me wrong, I think they're much better than they were, this time yesterday. With the Giannis Bam front court pairing is just nasty on defense. That's going to be awesome. Andrew Wiggins is a good defender if they keep him as well. Like, their front court's going to be great. Davion Mitchell is going to make their defense. I mean, their floor is like fifth, sixth, something like that defensively. So they're going to be good, and there's going to be quite a few contenders in the East next season. So I think the Heat are going to be awesome. They really need Norm Powell. They really need someone who can score the ball, but their depth is tested, right? That's going to be what's fascinating about what they do now is how they build out the rest of their team, because that, I think, will define where they land in the kind of contender hierarchy in the East, is how good the rest of their team is, because they have some bench players right now, I guess, but we see now more than ever. I mean, the last how many champions now have had good benches that they can rely on for a lot of time in the playoffs. And right now the Heat don't have that, and the regular season, of course, depth is even more important in a lot of ways. So they're certainly very good. I think there's like 5 or 6 teams right this second that will think they can win the East next season. Are the Heat better than some of the teams that have made the conference finals in recent seasons? I think that's kind of to be determined, even if they are definitely better than they were, again, at this time yesterday.
So was the last Giannis playoff game the John Halliburton incident?
It was, yes.
Oh, wow. What a way to just run away from the grind. You got Giannis ducking John Halliburton going to Miami. What are we doing? But again, I'm being a little facetious there with you, Tony, but when you look at where the Pacers stand currently in the East, and I'm putting you on the spot a little bit, who would you put ahead of each other, Miami or Indiana?
We've seen the Pacers do it. It's just, there's just question marks, right? We've never seen Giannis play for the Heat. We have not seen Tyrese Halliburton play in his post-Achilles injury lifetime. And so, I think it's hard to say for sure which one, but the history of what we know of these teams, I mean, the Pacers have won every series that they've played that Tyrese Halliburton finished healthy, and the Heat have not won a series in 4 years, 5 years. So obviously they have Giannis now, but there's a lot to be determined about what their team is and how it'll fit and how it's going to work. So I would have the Pacers ahead of the Heat, but it's going to be a big kind of jockeying for position of teams behind, including whatever you want to say, the Knicks. I think every team is going to think that they're the best or second best team in terms of the hierarchy of the East.
Was that a Guitar Hero re-entry for Mark Dykman?
Here we go.
Yeah, Dragon Force. The hardest song in the game.
Really? Now, is that your opinion or is that Tony East's
I think that's pretty universal.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah. Universal worldwide leader in Guitar Hero playing, Tony East.
I'm a novice.
Who I know he loves when we bring this up.
I'm a novice. Tony East, would you agree with that opinion?
Yeah, that song is famous for exactly that, yes.
That's all you're going to give us? Come on. I mean, geez, Mr. Humble.
What? Yeah, it's hard.
Have you mastered it?
Yeah.
Come on, Mark. Duh.
I was going to say, universal for people that aren't Tony East that probably can do it blindfolded or not looking at the screen.
It was famous enough that they put it in another game like years later.
Tony wooed his wife one day, blindfolded on Guitar Hero with that song right there. Excellent.
I don't think she's ever seen me do that, thankfully.
Oh, gosh, man. Once she does,
no better time than now.
Yeah, it'll be the honeymoon stage for the rest of your life.
I was like, you trying to keep my boy together with his wife? Or you trying to break things up? What are you doing?
I don't know Tony's wife, but Tony's a great human, so I should probably just.
I'll tell you this. Shout out Margot. When I showed my dad a photo of me, Margot, and Tony at his wedding, my dad looked at me and said, "Your boy did good.
Your boy did good." I love it. The Jesse Boyd stamp of approval. Say no more with that. Tony, Circle City Spin, his written work, and obviously Locked On Pacers, where you can find him from a listening standpoint. We appreciate his time on what is going to be a busy day and busy night for him. Okay, Tony, let's shift gears to tonight. Round one of the NBA draft. I think you have pointed out for several weeks now, you're kind of curious at some point late tonight, maybe early tomorrow, round two, on if the Pacers want to get into the draft. Could you elaborate a little bit more on what you're keeping an eye out for tonight and why it would make sense for the Pacers to buy a draft pick, for lack of a better term?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, they're at a point where Ben Shepherd and Jarris Walker are in the last year of their rookie deals and are about to potentially, be either the same level of salary or more expensive, and maybe even on a different team at some point. And they have Cam Jones and Johnny Furphy. That's kind of it for their draft picks the last couple seasons. So they're not an old team. They only have two players in their 30s right this second, but they are running low on like youth or players that you'd say like, oh, this person certainly is going to get better across the next year or two on their team. And I think getting youth in their pipeline in general is important, which is weird to say because they're a contender, but you need players who are going to be backfilling the veterans who leave at some point or veterans who age out of effectiveness at some point in this era. So I do think they would like to get a pick this year. I mean, Jake Fisher reported that they were targeting a pick in the early 30s. They've had success trying to get those picks or using them in some of the last couple of seasons. And so I do think between their lack of youth and their cap situation, for first-year players, late in the first round, they have a cheap salary and they have a lot of benefits on their contract over the life of it. And early in the second round, you could have them, on a deal that starts as low as the rookie minimum. There's just a lot of team-building benefits they would get from, adding a player. And the reason I think that the late first and early second is kind of a sweet spot for them is they don't have to give up any really good picks in the future or something that is tied down that they don't want to part with to get it. I think they could trade some of their better second-round assets in the future and maybe some of their young guys if that team was interested in them and be able to get into that range just by doing that. So I don't think they can get into like the top 20 or anything without surrendering future first-rounders. And, that's always a completely different conversation. But I do think there's ways for them to do it, and there's lots of reasons they would want to, even if that player maybe isn't helping them right this year or in the first year of this kind of post-Achilles Halliburton reality. But I do think they have a lot of reason to do so, even though they literally do not have a pick right now. It's a very strange draft to waddle into as a team.
Follow me on this one, Tony. Shout out to Coach Gavin, the swim lesson instructor for Max Bowen, doing an excellent job corralling that man and trying to teach him how to swim. He is a big-time TJ McConnell fan, and he's a little nervous about TJ and Obi Toppin still being on this basketball team when all things get started here in October. How do you view those two? We know Kevin Pritchard adores his core and keeping continuity, and particularly those two guys. But do you think there is a chance one of the two could get moved here in the next 10, 14 days?
Yeah, keeping them is certainly the odds-on favorite. They're good. They've played an important role on a conference winner, right? Like, that's a good thing. But I do think if you're the Pacers and you can get someone really good or somebody who makes $20 million plus who would start games or close games going forward, that you have to include a salary to do that. And I think that McConnell and Toppin would be the two that they'd be the most willing to part with. Not that they want to do that by any means, certainly, but the whole point of acquiring good players and upgrades is that you keep your already, your established players if you can. I'm not saying they're going to, but if they could, I think keeping their starting five and adding to it would make sense. So, for example, Mark Stein reported that the Pacers had, interest in Trey Murphy. They could get him, but he makes $27 million. And so you'd have to give up one of your core players to get him. So if you're the Pacers, I think you'd love it if it was somebody coming off the bench. Then you have all of your starters and Trey Murphy. But, of course, the Pelicans, why would they want that? So I do think it's their preference would be that one of those two is involved if they make a move to get someone awesome, somebody who could start games, who could close games, who could have that level of impact for them. But I don't think they're calling teams up going, hey, this guy's available. I just think that they are kind of necessary collateral to do something like that.
Again, that's the voice of Tony East. You can listen to him on Locked on Pacers, wherever you get your podcasts. As well, check out his written work at Circle City Spin. Tony, I do want to pivot to the Fever for just a moment. I know you weren't there last night. You ditched me. I will talk to you later about that. I'm the only one who's able to miss games this offseason, this summer. But in all seriousness, I don't know how much you had a chance to maybe watch the interaction that happened in the fourth quarter, but if you did, or even just the post-game comments from Caitlin Clark, what are your thoughts on her behavior and perhaps how much emotion is too much emotion when we're talking about possibly being suspended? Now she's at 5 technical fouls and 8, is the limit.
Yeah, she's certainly on track to get, I think, suspended twice, right? Because you get another one every second technical after 8. And
yeah, so it goes 8, 10, 12, 14, whatever.
Yeah. And they haven't even played close to half their games, and she's well on her way to, 10-plus this season. So, yeah, it's obviously something she's got to be cognizant of and get under control maybe is a stretch to define it as. But, yeah, some form of that. And, knowing that, hey, getting suspended would be bad for the team. Like, they are trying to find their way and figure it out. And so reeling that in some ways is important. I do think, though, for last night specifically, she said this to your question, I believe I watched the presser about, getting this one, like, just for clapping, like the ref told her it was for that. Other players were clapping. Like I watched the moment where it happened, and everybody's all fired up about a moment like that. Like if that's really the reason that they gave it to her, I'd be shocked if that was upheld. Like that seems very soft as a tech for basically any player. I do understand if it's one involved in the altercation or whatever, their standards are different, but it's hard for me to both say that she needs to be cognizant of that and be like, you can't clap. Like everybody's going to clap. People are pointing at each other the whole game. So last night seemed a little weak to me as a tech, unless she said something that we don't know about. But I do think that in many situations, she is very emotive in games, that she does need to know that is a line that's right in front of her. Basically, it's coming her way.
Tony, get a nap in, man. We always appreciate your insights. I know it is a very busy and going to be a long day tonight, tomorrow for you. So as always, man, thank you for the time.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Tony East, Circle City Spin, written content, Locked on Pacers from an audio standpoint. I tried to do the math when Tony brought that up. I didn't realize that you got suspended every 2 techs once you hit the 8-game threshold. So she's missed a game this season. So that would be 16 games played, and she has 5.
To be clear, she was not suspended. She missed a game due to her back.
Yeah. Sorry. 5 technicals in 16 games, so she's on pace for just under 14. So that means she'd be suspended for 3 games. Wow. That's kind of crazy if she continues on that pace.
And that's the whole point. You probably shouldn't continue on that pace. They need you out there. We saw what she did in the second quarter. We've seen what she's done this entire season. And quietly, it was kind of and I'm partly at fault for this because the texts and the skirmishes are always going to get more attention than the actual game in scenarios like that. But she has and currently has a WNBA record of games with at least 20 points and 5 assists. 6 straight game of doing that was last night. And so she's rolling right now, and they need you out there. This team without Caitlin Clark is not the same team. I know they had a lot of success last year, but I wouldn't bank on that being the norm.
Again, the Fever back in action against Phoenix tomorrow night. I can only imagine.
Someone said she's going for the Rasheed Wallace record. Oh, boy. Yeah, don't take a page out of Rasheed Wallace's book.
Yeah. Does she lead the league in texts? I have no idea.
So we were looking this up, and fittingly, it is her and Angel Reese.
Really?
Yes. They both have 5.
Birds of a feather.
I was going to say,
they just can't
wherever
escape
they
each
go,
other.
they can never be too far apart.
Birds of a feather. Boy, that is so true. Fever at home tomorrow and at home also on Saturday. I actually thought Caitlin Clark had a great second quarter last night because they were down 19-6 at the end of the first. It got off to just a horrific start, then played pretty good basketball the rest of the way. James still in shock over the Mark Dykton $20 Tooth Fairy price tag.
Oh my
It
gosh.
wasn't me.
Did you see this?
I don't make these prices.
By the way, we had a listener chime in and say that for their kid, the grandparent chipped in $25.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Hot coffee here.
So
now that would be the grandparent of the Tooth Fairy, just to be clear for everybody in their cars.
Yes,
right now.
yes,
Yeah. Just want to keep it in the Tooth
There you
Fairy
go.
family here. Mark, in your conversations with the Tooth Fairy, does that Andrew Jackson value decrease in each subsequent?
Yes, of course. I think I've said that multiple times. Yes.
Unlike the Caitlin Clark technicals, this
From
is
what
going in a
I've
different
gathered
direction.
from the Tooth Fairy notes that she's left after the first tooth has gone out of the mouth, she said, "Congratulations, this is a big milestone. The first tooth is a big deal. Here's my friend Andrew, if you'd like to meet him." After that, his other friends are usually Mr. Abe Lincoln and Mr. George Washington. So,
man, I'm just thinking back to my childhood, Mark. I'm pretty sure the Tooth Fairy never knew my address.
Well,
she did not pull up.
Tell you what, man, that Tooth Fairy's got to have some sweaty palms getting under the Dykton pillows.
I
there.
know.
Jeez, I'm a little shaky thinking about it. Boy, there was something, though, Mark, just to see, like, the sheer look on her face when the tooth did pop out last night.
so
like,
did that come out naturally? Like, because we've
I
had
mean,
that word.
we were wiggling it big time, and then Maddie, I think, just kind of, just did a little one,
Mhm.
and boom, just popped right out. And, of course, the initial blood, Rosie's probably not the most, she doesn't strike me as a big, blood.
Future surgeon? No.
Well, yeah. I mean, she's probably a little bit more on the ground like some of our World Cup athletes, I guess, than most is probably how
Okay.
I can describe it. So once the initial of like, oh yeah, let's get a little, whatever, gauze situation in there, Kleenex situation in there to stop the bleeding. Boy, her sheer joy of just wiggling that tongue, all of a sudden
Yeah.
feeling your mouth. Oh, she was on top
Childhood,
of the world there.
baby.
Oh, it was peak childhood. Watching that last night there. All right, we got a ton to get to in the morning checkdown. Reminder, we're back into our What If series. It has been today if Josh McDaniels would have stayed as the Colts head coach in 2018. We'll hit that coming up on the other side. But it is a busy morning checkdown. Mark, cue us up.
We got a bleeder!
The Morning Checkdown on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
All right, late last night, the trade that, boy, the NBA seemingly has one of these trades like every single offseason. And this one, it is Giannis Antetokounmpo leaving the Milwaukee Bucks off to the Miami Heat with Bobby Portis. So say goodbye to that rivalry as well. In return, Tyler Hero, Khalil Ware, Jaime Jaquez, Chunis, the Illinois guard from a few years ago, and 3 first-round picks there. Now, Vegas has the odds shifting a lot. They've pushed Miami well into Tier 1. I'm not ready to be there. It sounded like Tony East was a lot higher on Miami than I am. Did you get that vibe from Tony?
I got that vibe as well, but I just don't think the NBA is what it used to be, meaning when you load up on star players, you're just going to go to the finals. The league's different now, and I get that the 2 stars now in Miami are Giannis and Bam, but I don't know if that's enough to push you into the upper echelon because, as you pointed out, what about the rest of you guys? What about your shooting? What about your ancillary players? That's where I think you win championships in today's NBA.
We got people in the YouTube chat saying the Heat are going to have you and JMV coming off the bench.
Boy, we'd be in trouble. I like my skills, but I like my skills relative to hoop runs with JMV, not hoop runs against the best players in the world.
Udonis Haslem, you got one left in you? Come on down.
D-Wade?
Them keeping Norman Powell is going to be, I think, vital to, having a little bit of shooting, a little bit of just kind of punch from the guard positions. They are definitely front court heavy right now. Reminder, NBA draft tonight, round 1. You can hear it on these airwaves following trackside, 5 minutes for each pick here. And as Tony East mentioned to us, he's curious, kind of late first round, early second. Do the Pacers have any sort of intrigue to get maybe a younger contract? And is this part of their plan here? I think there's a real unknown, James. Unlike with the Colts, we sat here with the Colts and it was like, we know they want Daniel Jones back. We know they want Alec Pierce back. And we think they're going to take a swing at pass rusher.
Right.
I think that was a pretty consensus from us. I sit here with the Pacers, and I don't really know what they want to do. I asked you yesterday on the 1 to 10 notable scale, 10 being a Giannis trade, 1 being, Trey Kaufman-Brown on a 2-way contract, what type of move are they going to make? I believe you said 4 yesterday.
Yeah.
Again, how active are they going to be? They've pushed so many chips into the middle. They still have a few more. Will they push even more? I think we'll get some answers on that here, maybe as early as one of these next couple of nights. It was a day for the stars at the World Cup there. Who's better, Lionel Messi or Mbappe?
I think currently Mbappe is a better player, but of course, all time, Messi probably is standing alone.
Giannis needs that Messi fountain of youth.
He does.
He heads to Miami.
He does.
He looks great. 2 goals yesterday, 2 goals for Mbappe, 2 goals for the Holland dude from Norway, which always confuses me. He's a Norwegian fella. His third goal yesterday, the third goal of the game, God, that thing was a thing of beauty.
I know. That was a great game.
I can't imagine that feeling. Could you imagine the feeling of scoring a World Cup goal
Their
and your
ability
entire country is watching?
Their ability to shape the ball is just amazing to me.
Yeah, and there's a reason why they're the highest paid athletes on earth.
Gosh, it is a thing to watch. Our final round 2 games. Again, 3 games here in these group stages. The final second game for all these teams will be today. Portugal, right, Mark? Cristiano Ronaldo and company? And I think that's the early game. I think that's 1 o'clock again today.
Yep, that is the opener of today's slate of games is, Cristiano Ronaldo on the pitch.
I would think England-Ghana would be a big game here coming up.
That's a good one. I'm also intrigued by the nightcap, which is Colombia against Congo. Congo been one of the nice stories.
They tied Portugal, right,
of the
in the
group
first game?
stage. I would like to see what they do against Colombia.
So 1, 4, 7, and 10 tonight, if you want that opposite your NBA draft viewing. Major League Baseball yesterday, the Brewers pitcher had a perfect game through 5 innings, so I texted Joel Erickson. Is this bad juju? I texted Joel Erickson in all caps. How is your pitcher doing tonight? Question mark.
I think you're just kind of trolling. You're trying to send out bad vibes to your friends.
Now, did it work? The fact that the Reds got a hit the next inning? Did I get my job done? Or the fact that the Brewers won in 10 innings? Did Joel get the last line?
I think you got the job done because you've already told me the Reds are dead. But also, I don't know if it really works on Joel because he's such a practical fan anyway.
Oh, my gosh. His response was so pathetic. He goes, haha, we're here. So he's at the game. He's at Great American Ballpark, I assume with his boys. And then he quickly responds, oh, he's not going the distance. It's his first game off the injured list. Well, thanks, Joel.
It is the Reds, though. We could have probably gotten through it.
Get this context out of here.
Twist the knife a little bit more here. Yeah. Unbelievable.
No.
There's times I think Joel's an offspring of Cy Young and Warren Spahn with how much he knows about the game of baseball. Oklahoma, Boomer Sooner is your national champion there. They rout North Carolina in the final game, decisive game 3 last night there. Oklahoma was 11th in the SEC this year. Just means more in baseball in that conference as they get it done. And we close the book on our college championships of the year. Dusty May to the Mavericks. To me, James, it was always more of a win, not if, in regards to the NBA. It's a bummer. I think from a college sports landscape, I enjoy when these young, up-and-coming, accomplished head coaches are staying in the college game. I think in the NBA game, naturally, when you talk about the Mavericks, you talk about Cooper Flagg.
Right.
You know, from a Michigan standpoint, you would have talked about Dusty May. And, I enjoyed Dusty May walking back into Mackey. I enjoyed Dusty May walking back into Assembly Hall. You know
Right.
that means more than, frankly, Dusty May walking into whatever, where the Kings play.
I'm laughing because I really can't name where the Kings play.
I was going to say Arco Arena.
That does not sound right, but I'll go with it.
I'm going to look it up.
Shout out Dusty May. I had a
Golden
chance
One Center?
to. Oh, that's where they play. But yeah, shout out Dusty May. I had a chance to actually interact with him, get to know him a little bit when he recruited John L. Davis, who was one of their star players on the Florida Atlantic team that went to the Final Four. He was at a tiny school in Gary called 21st Century, and I was thinking, you're the only white man in this gym. You got to be a coach. And he was. And so he was a very gracious person. Then follows me on Twitter. I thought about sliding in the DMs last night, but I figured they'd be kind of full with congratulations.
Yeah, I'm hoping, at some point here, obviously once things settle down, he'll join John. Obviously, him and John have had many conversations over the years. Always enjoy that. But, by all reports here from the college basketball media, it sounds like just kind of the state of college basketball. Big reason why you're seeing Dusty May head off to the association. All right, coming up on the other side, we'll get back into our What If series with the Colts. I think there are several branches to the storyline of if Josh McDaniels had followed through on his verbal promise to coach the Colts back in 2018. We'll get more into that next. Fan Morning Show here on a beautiful Tuesday in Indy.
We are tracking a bright and beautiful day across central Indiana. Mostly sunny skies with a high near 78 degrees. Tonight, mostly clear with lows in the upper 50s. I'm Fox 59 meteorologist Amber Hardwick for The Fan.
This is the Fan Morning Show with Kevin Bowen and James Boyd.
You knew Andrew Luck's situation. Well, Andrew Luck might not be healthy.
I believe if Andrew Luck would have never gotten hurt, if he was balling right now, McDaniels makes a different choice.
What happened with the Colts? People know of the rumors of like, oh, he went back to New England because he's just going to be the coach in waiting when Bill leaves.
At the end of the day, didn't feel like it was the right decision, and I know the timing was awkward, awful, I didn't want to do that to anybody either. That was something that I regret in that regard, but I didn't feel like just because the timing was bad, I should go ahead and make a bad decision that I thought wasn't good for me or them.
Our What If series, third edition, today had Josh McDaniels done what he said he was going to do and verbally agreeing to take the Colts job several weeks by all accounts, and then backed out right after the Patriots lost the Super Bowl there to the Philadelphia Eagles in 2018. I just... how much did the Andrew Luck thing have to do with it? How much was it Brady and Belichick saying, hey, come back here. We've got one more chance to do this. They ended up winning a Super Bowl for what it's worth. McDaniels still became a head coach. He flamed out. It was with the Raiders, coached for a year and a half. But, yeah, there's just a lot to this story, James. Anything you unearthed or anything from our conversation today? I know you weren't covering it at the time. I can still remember being we actually were in the Colts team meeting room for that Chris Ballard press conference. And Ballard was, that was one of the early animations from Ballard. Now we're kind of used to it, but he was pretty fired up in that press conference there. So anything you found interesting in regards to this story?
I think when talking about any coach that's been hired since then, it's inevitable that you all make the joke that nothing's official until it's on paper. We were talking about Shane Steichen. Remember when there was like rumors of him possibly taking over for the Colts? That actually got leaked, I think, on Super Bowl Sunday as well, right before they played the Chiefs. And we're in a group chat for those listening with the Colts writers, and everyone basically made the joke of, well, get your pre-writes ready, but we all know this thing ain't done until Chris Ballard sees pen on paper in front of him, which normally that seems like a standard practice, but usually when a coach gives their word, they don't go back on it. So that to me is probably the most shocking part, reading all the stories from the past of, just how weird a situation that was for everyone involved and how quickly they had to pivot. Because from my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kevin, pretty much the entire hiring cycle was already done. So Mike Vrabel had already been hired away.
Yeah, he went to the Titans, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And some other, perhaps, people you would have considered for your job. So that kind of put you behind the 8 ball to then go out and find Frank Reich and try to get back on track. And I get that, like, best case scenario for a worst case scenario in this instance is that it happened still pretty early in the calendar year, but it's still not ideal. That's a lot to adjust to.
If I remember correctly, that was the Matt Nagy coaching cycle too. He went to the Bears. I think the Colts also interviewed Matt Rule. I remember being at a Pacer game and found out they interviewed Matt Rule, and that was out of left field. That was when Matt Rule was at Baylor. And
so he stayed.
And obviously eventually took the Carolina job. And then when McDaniels left, said no, the Colts interviewed 3 people. Frank Reich, Leslie Frazier, who had ties, obviously, to the organization. Frank Reich, of course, did as well. And then Dan Campbell, who, Chris Ballard really, really liked. And, that's kind of been one of my what-if branches today. What if they had hired Dan Campbell? What if they had hired Mike? If McDaniels tells you no right away in early January, what if you pivot to Mike Vrabel and he doesn't go to Tennessee? Does that lead to a different pathway for this franchise? The other thought I've had, and a few people have reached out and mentioned this to us today, James, let's rewind to last December. Hell, we've done it probably for several Decembers now. The pros and cons of the Chris Ballard resume. Should Chris Ballard get another year? Should he get an 8th? Should he get a 9th? Now it's a 10th year. Does anybody view this as it should be more of a stain on the Chris Ballard resume? Or is that hindsight 2020? Should the Josh McDaniels situation be viewed? Because to a lot of people, they didn't want McDaniels in the first place. Part of that is probably New England snakeness.
Yeah.
You just hate New England in general. But some people thought, hey, the Denver thing worked out horribly. The Belichick coaching tree is not a very fertile coaching tree. It's not. That's not the right hire.
And if we're saying hindsight's 2020, look how it worked out when he did get that next head coaching
with
job
the Raiders. Yeah. So should we? It just seems like it's a forgotten moment, really, in the Ballard era to many people.
And to be fair, there's been a lot of craziness. So sorry if that doesn't rank number one. But I would probably say it should be a mark against him, mainly because you handpicked him. You're supposed to vet the guy. You're supposed to get that across the finish line. When you say, this is my coach, this is the guy who's going to lead my franchise, having that guy go back on his word, turn his back on you, leave you at the altar, I mean, how much did you really know about his character?
And clearly to the Irsay family, it's not one. Because
right.
Had this played out, when you think about it, Ballard has hired McDaniels, Reich, Jeff Saturday, I will not say was his hire, and Steichen. How many coaches, how many GMs get 3 separate hires when obviously the playoff success hasn't been there as well? It's
usually 2 max. That's it.
And emphasis on max, Mark.
Yeah.
I mean, usually it's your head coach and your GM are tied at the hip and they get that one opportunity, and that's really it there. So, that is part of me that is, again, another branch of today's topic has been, what if McDaniels did end up coaching the Colts? What if he flames out in 3 years? Does everybody, there's a lot more, I think, conversation back then of like, see, we told you so. It's Josh McDaniels. You don't hire him. It's not going to work out. He's a coordinator. Would that have led to maybe an earlier GM change? And obviously here we are 8 years later, and he's still the general manager.
I also wonder if he wasn't a member of the Patriots and this happened, would that have extended like if he was a member of the Bengals and that happened, was it because he was a member of the Patriots that maybe the Irsay family gave Ballard a little like, okay, well, like there are rivals, so they could have done some backroom politics or something to keep him or whatever. So we're not going to mark against you. If it was like trying to get him from the Bengals and he did that, well, how did that happen? I feel like if he wasn't a member of the Patriots organization, there would have been a little more venom on that falling through the cracks a little bit more.
We will continue to get into our What If series. We're going to do these every other day. I think with the sports calendar this time of year, obviously we have days like today where there's been a lot to get to here in these 3 hours. Tomorrow with the NBA draft round 1, we'll see if there's any other, big news that happens league-wide in regards to the Pacers potentially. So we'll get to one coming up on Thursday and then throw a couple more at you coming up next week. All right, on the other side, we'll look at what was a newsy day in the association. And again, it is NBA draft night. I get the Pacers don't have a pick, but what are we keeping an eye out for in regards to 8 o'clock tonight, 5 minutes for each pick here, and then we'll get to round 2 coming up on Wednesday. One final time, it's the Fan Morning Show here, 93.5, 107.5, The Fan.
This is the Fan Morning Show with Kevin Bowen and James Boyd.
I don't want to get too personal here. Mark Dykton, where were you last night at 7 o'clock?
Whoa.
At the home, watching some World Cup and some Fever action. Cutting together some what-if montages.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And getting those Andrew Jacksons ready in conjunction with the Tooth Fairy.
Oh, man, ain't that the truth? I thought you might have been down in Greenwood.
Oh, really?
Did you see the news yesterday in the Indianapolis Star?
I heard some reports. I've heard some rumblings for quite a bit. And we're talking about the Beaver sighting in Greenwood, potentially?
I would say that's a Buc-ee's proposed in Greenwood. They had a zone meeting last night at 7 o'clock. I expected Mark Dykton to come dressed as the Buc-ee Beaver.
I would have pounded the gavel. We're not leaving session till this gets approved.
You imagine on I-65, Southport Road exit, you look over and you see Mark Dykton in the Beaver costume with his turn signal on. Trying to get over there. Okay, so the closest one right now is Dayton, Ohio. I didn't realize we had one that it opened just a month ago.
Yeah, I think that is now the closest. The one before that was the one near Bowling Green, I think.
The Richmond one. That's the one that we've stopped at a couple times here. Yeah, so I guess the rumor here is, what's that? Worthsville Road, that exit down there. 74,000 square foot, 120 gas pumps and charging stations. Here we go. Mark Dykton, you might be putting the shovel in the ground.
I'm going to retire from road trips. No need to go any further. Just go to Greenwood.
Now, are you a fan at all of like the Wawa or the Wallies?
Oh,
or
100%.
those? Is that like saying I like Tiger Woods and I can't cheer against Phil Mickelson?
No, Wawa right in
Can't cheer for
Brownsburg, frequent very often. Good gas, good food, good coffee. So we do that quite a bit. And then the Wallies up near Whitestown is opening, I believe, in like by the end of the month. So it'll be the first time I've ever been there, but we will frequent that too.
So Mark obviously wasn't with us in the Colts media room when we had this debate about Buc-ee's, but Mark, I'll have you know, Joey Erickson hates Buc-ee's. He hates Buc-ee's.
Yeah, he does. I forgot
I
about
thought
that.
I didn't know that was a human.
disgusting
I didn't know that was
thing for
even
him to say.
possible. But he was going at the brisket sandwiches. I want real brisket. I hate the line. I hate the fanfare.
Yeah.
He was like the Grinch.
This is disgusting from Joey Erickson. I had some respect for that man. All of a sudden, no more. This is heinous behavior right here.
I had kind of forgotten about that. I mean, I don't want to turn this into like an economic impact thing, but like, are there really people that are driving just to visit Buc-ee's? Like, are you telling me like, don't tell me for a second there's people that are going to be spending a night in a Greenwood hotel room to go visit Buc-ee's?
I know, because we'll see like even like we were up in Illinois for Father's Day weekend, and there was a billboard sign, and it was for Buc-ee's, and it said like 300 something miles away. I'm like, who's putting that up there? Who's seeing that and say only 6 hours to go?
Well, I would have said you, honestly.
No,
you're so Buc-ee crazy.
But I just feel like that's
I'm a
insane.
little nervous you might go with a for sale sign in Brownsburg and all of a sudden be moving to Greenwood here.
We
in the
were
next few
leaving
months.
Wisconsin one time, and I swear there's one on 94, and it says like 700 something miles. And I'm like, what in the hell? Who put that sign there?
What do we care about tonight? NBA draft. 8 o'clock tonight. Obviously, when the fifth pick shows up, and I swear if that fifth pick puts on a Pacers hat, I'm going to... Oh, God. First, I'm going to be mad at the NBA. I'm like, how have we not fixed these rules? If hopefully it's just a Clippers hat. But you care about any? I mean, you care about Peterson, Boozer? You care about anything? Keaton Wagler, I will say, is a very intriguing prospect to me.
I think that's why I will probably be tuned in the most, because he's one of the bigger question marks. Same with Darius Acuff Jr. Where does he go? He's a smaller guard, but he had a great season in Arkansas. So who takes a swing on him? So I usually, like most drafts, and I'm not working, will watch the top 10 and kind of see those young men have their dreams come true. But then after that, I think a lot of the conversation will kind of shift to, okay, when and if do the Pacers make a move?
Yeah, I'll be curious to see that. You know, as they get late in the draft, I know Tony East mentioned this with us a little bit earlier. You know, could they trade back into round one? Like, is there anything that they would do there at the end of the first round? I've kind of just assumed that if they were to make a notable move this offseason, it would be more in the veteran route. But I thought Tony explained it, you know, fairly well with us a little bit earlier. And again, locally, we usually have some angle with these drafts. There's some, IU, Purdue player, obviously Indianapolis high school area player. We really don't have that here in round one. It's funny you bring up Darius Acuff because he was the one I was really intrigued by. Like, if the Pacers didn't have Halliburton, I just assumed he would be the next person up. A few of these mock drafts I've seen, they don't have him going necessarily 5th overall. So, yeah, Clippers at 5 tonight, 4 for the Chicago Bulls. Is that Caleb Wilson, Mark?
I would hope so. I guess it just depends what Memphis does at 3. So that would be that's the big question mark, I think.
Vegas has it pretty even between Boozer and Peterson, and the difference on that. I'm kind of glad we didn't. Well, the Darren Peterson conversation I think is difficult, without like knowing everything.
Yeah,
I probably side on more of it. I think he's a hell of a talent, and I think the stuff at Kansas is a little overblown. But the hindsight of 2020 is much easier to say 3 years, 4 years down the road. Did you not watch his first year at Kansas and all that drama? Why did you even think about taking him?
But I also look at that matchup they had with BYU, and he looked like the best player on the floor, head up against AJ DeBanza. So we'll see what his NBA future holds. And, oh, my gosh, I'm still annoyed that we spent so much time invested in it in the lottery in the top 5, and it shifted.
Would you ever drink this thing that Jake Query is about to consume here for the next 3 hours? Zero Nas?
I think I'm good, but I do hope that Jake does not start floating after drinking that.
Is that a daily thing, Jake?
Oh, see.
Hourly. Mark, wasn't a lot of Mountain Dews with us? I was trying to think back in the day.
Yeah, Mountain Dews and just staring out the window saying, when does the sun come up?
So, Jake, you are a Mountain Dew guy. Are you still a Mountain Dew guy?
I do like Diet Mountain Dew, yes.
Okay. I'm not judging. He's here. He's here on time.
The reality
He show.
is this.
Hey,
I've said this before. I don't have. It doesn't matter what time I go to bed. Waking up is difficult for me, but going to bed is. I'm sorry. Waking up is difficult, but so is going to bed. Like I could stay up for 6 straight days, and I'm never tired. And then when you know what I mean. So I have.
When you finally crash, it's like
that
alarm's going off.
I gotta get a little wake me up. By the way. The Wally's, I can report to Mark. I stopped on my way up to Wisconsin. I was all excited to stop and see Wally's. Pulled in, not open yet. You are correct. I mean, it looks like there's a huge building there. It looks like it's going to be open. And, hate to say this, I know you guys are up against it. I'm not with Joel Erickson on this, but while I like Buc-ee's, I've gotten to the point where I'm like, yeah, I think I've done the whole experience.
Oh, boy. Mark Dykton.
Oh, my gosh.
Mark Dykton would like a word with you.
Yeah, but a 5-minute break becomes 45 minutes, and you're like, no, I got to get back on the road. And the gas is the same price, realistically, as the small station across the street.
The bathrooms are kind of nice, though.
They are.
That's Jake Query. He'll have you 10-1 today. It's a busy day in the sports world, recapping a whole lot. Thanks for tuning in with us, Jake